away from where he's been for a really long time too. And some people like change and some people want to put the reset button on, but I still feel like it's a very highly likely chance that he will be right here in Nashville.
I'm hoping so. The fit makes sense.
It really does.
If we're being real, the fit makes sense here. But money is always going to be the biggest issue.
Money.
How do you make that work? And his role in this offense, I saw it was heated yesterday. I was listening across most of our platforms yesterday, all our shows, our teammates and stuff, and the conversation: do you trade Traylon?
No.
Do you?
I doubt one host on 3HL was in favor of that.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, I'm sure Ron had something to say about that.
I don't know if he listened to Blaine and Mickey then. They put him on. Well, I ain't going to say they put him on because I missed the full context of it. But the conversation of do you put him on the chopping block if you bring in Tyler Boyd?
So the specifics of the DeAndre Hopkins schedule last year, DeAndre Hopkins visited the Titans on, I believe, either June 10th or June 11th.
Okay.
He did not sign until July 16th.
I didn't realize that.
It was a lot later.
He don't have to hurry.
So it was a month.
Yeah.
And at this point, you're not going to miss a ton of mini camps. You're not going to miss a ton of workouts as a veteran. So might as well wait closer to training camp was the thought process behind DeAndre Hopkins last year and Jadeveon Clowney during COVID.
That's true.
Which feels like yesterday in some ways.
And he would know most of the playbook anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Makes sense.
615-737-1045 and streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Coming up, we will revisit our conversation with ESPN's Matt Miller, who had a lot to say on our show. A lot of positive, some negative. We'll give you that perspective coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster here for United Structural Systems. And sometimes, man, I could tell you all you want to know about a product that I endorse here at 104.5, but it's probably better to hear some from one of the reviews of somebody that's used them, okay? And this was on the foundation issues that they had at their workplace. Brad here in Nashville said he had 2 sidewalks collapse on their campus, and it created a trip hazard and an ADA issue. Said he placed a call to United Structural Systems to get a quote on their concrete poly lifting service. The process was quick and the communication was excellent, he said, from the first call until the day of completion. Said Evan came out and completed their work, and their sidewalks are now within compliance, and the trip hazard has been eliminated. Said USS saved them thousands of dollars over having to replace 2 panels of the sidewalk. Also, when they left, the work site was neat and clean and with no evidence that they had ever been there. He said, as the director of facilities, USS is a partner you need in your contact list. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not just the foundation, it's waterproofing issues too, as it's going to be raining for the next 5-6 days, okay? If you have any issues around your house, whether it be foundation or waterproofing, some leaks coming in and out, reach out to the team that I trust. That's United Structural System at USSTN.com.
Friday morning, first hour of the show, a loaded lineup. Lock in right here for the next 3.5+ hours on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh. 615-737-1045. Brent Hubbs at 7:20. Tommy Thigpen, UNC linebackers coach, breaks down Cedric Gray at 8. Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl at 8:20. And ESPN's Jeremy Fowler at 9:20. But right now, revisit a conversation with ESPN's Matt Miller, who has a different evaluation on J.C. Latham than most other draft media. I wanted to start with what you wrote about this draft class on ESPN.com of the Titans maybe being your least favorite draft class. What did you not love about the class the Titans brought in?
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall looking at and let me back up. When we do these, like, hey, our favorite classes, it is absolutely, there's a bias because you're comparing it to your own ranking.
Sure.
So what I try to do after every draft is compare where a player was drafted versus where I had them ranked, how well they filled team needs, how well they played the board, value-wise, if there are trades involved, were those smart trades, were they not smart trades? So you try to take everything into account. When I looked at what the Titans did, I thought there were reaches. I thought J.C. Latham was a reach in the first round. I thought Tavondre Sweat was a reach in the second round. I didn't think that either player addressed the team's, true needs as far as needing a left tackle. I was all about getting more pass rush help. Did not think it would come in the form of a 360-pound nose tackle. So the first two picks are kind of the border, the headline of your class. Just didn't see either player being a good value where they were selected.
ESPN's Matt Miller, our guest at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter. So, Matt, when you look from maybe the J.C. Latham perspective and from his camp, if you were J.C. Latham's camp saying, what's the best place you could land? Could you make the argument that that's with the Titans just because of who their offensive line coach is and Bill Callahan? Is this the best opportunity for a team to maybe get the most out of him?
Yeah, I do think so. And I even said that draft weekend. I am not smarter than Bill Callahan. I do not want anyone to think that I think I'm smarter than Bill Callahan. However, I've been doing this a while as well. I've evaluated a heck of a lot of prospects. I do know what I'm doing. So I think it is a good landing spot. My confusion comes from the fact of drafting someone who's never played left tackle a day in his life, who also played last year at 360 pounds, and movement was his struggle, in saying, you're going to be a left tackle for us. He's built like a guard. I mean, he truly is. I mean, everything about him. He was the strongest offensive lineman in the class. When he gets his hands on you, he shut you down. Absolutely. But, 18 penalties in college. That's a problem for me. 27-game starter at right tackle. Never took a snap anywhere but there. And I think there were times there were lapses in effort. You can look at the last play of his career as kind of a point to that. Of you get run over by a dude that weighs 237 pounds. You weigh 360. Why is that happening? He allows way too much inside pressure. Now, can Bill Callahan look at him and say, hey, this is my Orlando Brown Jr.? Maybe that's the mindset here. I would argue that if you're drafted in the top 10, you should probably aim higher than Orlando Brown Jr. as your left tackle. If that's the gold standard, our standard is wrong. We need to reevaluate what we're looking for at offensive tackle. So we'll see, man. I have a ton of respect for Rand Carthon. I have a ton of respect for both the Callahans. I always say this. I hope I'm wrong about these things. When you say you don't like a pick, you hope you're wrong, because that means that the player and the team have, achieved a level that you didn't expect they could. So Titans fans, I hope I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that this value was really good.
ESPN's Matt Miller's with us this morning. Matt, when it comes down to a dream scenario for the Titans and probably a couple other teams, it would have been awesome to have two Joe Alts, is what I'd almost expect when you mention needs, right? But as it pertains to picking the next best available guy for a left tackle, would you have considered Olu-Fashanu, or do you still go J.C. Latham? Because, again, there's knocks on either player. And in your opinion, and studying pre-draft, was it just a conversation around Olu-Fashanu's hand size and that as it pertains to picking J.C. over Olu-Fashanu?
Olu is my number 11 overall player. So that would have been the pick for me. Without a doubt, would have been the pick for me. 2-year starter at left tackle as opposed to a 2-year starter at right tackle. Gave up 1 sack. I know people dog on him about the hand size, 8.5-inch hands, or, hey, the Ohio State games, he struggled. Yeah, Ohio State's got some pretty good defensive ends. Those guys are going to be early draft picks next year. So I don't get it with Olu. I mean, dude's a team captain. Coaches there absolutely loved him. In fact, the quote I had in my scouting notes, high production, low maintenance. That's what the head coach at Penn State said about him. To me, that's the kind of dude you absolutely want, who does have athletic tools. His relative athletic score was a 9.58. He's a high-end athlete who is still learning the position. He is a little robotic at times. I think this past year, playing through the ankle injury, did show his toughness and his leadership, but it did hurt his game to some degree, especially in the run game. But I would have taken Fashanu and said, the work ethic, the traits, the person that I'm getting, that feels like a slam dunk to me. And my comp for him was Teron Armstead. And I know I said with Latham, like, you'd like to aim higher than Orlando Brown Jr. I think Armstead's one of the better left tackles in football. So if that's the level that you're getting, especially like in the South where you've got some pretty dang good pass rushers, I would want a left tackle who's got good movement ability. I just think that's so important to have that reactive agility, and Fashanu's got that.
So when it comes to the draft board and how teams set them up and, what are reaches and what are not reaches, as it pertains to how you judge them and break guys down, you do a really good job at it versus teams who do that, right? How do you evaluate that? Because the conversation was that, JC was higher than Fashanu on the Titans board. So is that just, bad scouting, or just you looking at the overall raw athlete and say, yeah, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's played at a big program and big time games versus what Olu Fashanu has done? Is that just a separation of the way they scout, in your opinion, or it was just simply a reach?
I think it is a difference in how you scout. It really is. And there's information they have that I don't have that will always lead to differences, right? I'm a 1-person scouting department. They're a 25-person scouting department plus the coaching staff. So there's always going to be some variances there. And I will say, of all the analysts that I interact with, I was the lowest on Latham by a healthy margin. The difference is I'm not trying to rate players to equal where they'll be drafted. I'm ranking players based on how good I think they are and how good I think they will be. So I think sometimes you get a little bit of a difference in that. There are guys who rank because, hey, this guy's going to be drafted in the top 10. I want my ranking to match that. Boom, there we go. I don't do that. So I do think with Latham, one of the differences between myself and the Titans could be that they are evaluating for a scheme and a style, and I'm not doing that, because I don't work for a team, so I'm not looking for a certain prototype. Sometimes there are things even deeper. Sometimes it's even like a personality that you need or don't need that better fits your locker. I've talked to teams about that in the past where I'm like, man, I was a lot higher on this guy than you. They're like, well, his personality doesn't really fit us. I don't think that applies with Latham per se, but that is sometimes why you get the big differences. Mostly would be the scheme, and then secondarily would be, I think the culture. So I wouldn't say that the Titans are bad evaluators, not at all. We just have a pretty big difference in opinion in who JC Latham can be. If they had rolled out and said, hey, this dude is a plug and play right tackle with all pro potential, I'd be like, yeah, he absolutely is. But if you're playing him at left tackle, I think that's where we have our big difference in opinion of what type of player he can be.
Matt Miller of ESPN joining us this morning on RK Dub. Matt, when it comes to T'Vondre Sweat, I think this is where a lot of people that broke down this draft looked at this pick as being risky. And, there's the weight conversation, there's the DWI before the draft. But the Titans, put out that they did their due diligence. They even flew down to Texas and, felt comfortable drafting this guy. I will say this, someone's going to draft him. So, Matt, with him coming here, could this be the best opportunity for him to succeed, knowing who he's going to be on the line with Jeffrey Simmons, who, by the way, had some issues coming out of college as well and did some pretty good things here as of late. And then having just a defensive line coach in Tracy Rocker who's seen it all.
Yeah, so on Sweat, I thought around the time of the Senior Bowl was the peak for him. And there was like some legitimate late first, early second round talk when we were at the Senior Bowl. After that, once you really got more information from area scouts and coaches, is when it started to bottom out. Even before the DWI, was like the kind of the period at the end of the sentence for him. I had a 4th round grade on Sweat, and I loved his tape. I really did. I mean, the tape was fantastic, but the more you heard about, work ethic concerns, especially early in his career, I think he did a good job of turning things around. The DWI didn't help with that perception, but everything I heard was that he did a really good job turning things around over the course of his career. And he has said himself, I was kind of a party animal early in college. That led to some of the issues with, weight management. And that's the key here is now, you got to keep this dude reined in. I do think playing with Jeffrey Simmons is going to help. They had someone, Keandre Coburn, who they picked up from the Chiefs, was with Sweat at Texas, so there's some familiarity there. Coburn was a player that at Texas was a really good leader, so I think that will help. And sometimes you try to do that. You try to pair a guy with someone that was a mentor with him in college. The Eagles did that with they had Jordan Davis. That's why they felt comfortable drafting Jalen Carter. So a lot of times you're thinking about those things when you make the pick. But with Sweat, really good player when you can keep him reined in. I thought it was interesting from a purely football standpoint, to be his size, 360 pounds, they had to play him as a 3 technique. They didn't play him at nose tackle. They actually played Byron Murphy, the smaller guy, by a healthy margin. They played him at nose tackle because he could better handle 2-gapping. He could better understand the assignments and what was needed of him as opposed to just, hey, I'm just going to try to blow things up every play. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest adjustment for Sweat is just playing assignment-based football because that was something that he did struggle with at Texas.
Matt Miller of ESPN with us now. Matt, when it comes to their fourth round pick, because they did not have a 3rd rounder, they did address the need at linebacker. I'm curious to know, do you feel like he's an instant starter in Cedric Gray, the 3-year starter at North Carolina, and could he possibly even wear the green dot? Because that is a huge conversation here with the pairing of Kenneth Murray.
Yeah, I think he has to be a rookie starter. I really do. Athletically, he definitely can handle that. I know he didn't test as athletic as he played, I thought, but his production as a 3-down player was remarkable. And I think to the green dot question, this guy played over 50 games in college. That would make me feel pretty good about giving him that responsibility. He was an all-ACC selection the last 2 years. Everything he did during those 3 years of starting was just high-end production. I think he had over 370 tackles. It's just crazy. Played primarily on the inside. They did move him around a little bit, but the stat that I had from our information department at ESPN was 73% of his snaps came at inside linebacker, which is, again, great to that idea of this guy might have to be our green dot player. In coverage, I think is where he struggles, but he had 8.5 sacks during his career. He can get after the quarterback a little bit, whether that be on delays, stunts, things of that nature. Love his length. Love the way he plays. He's just got to be, I think, a little more physical against the run. That's going to be the biggest adjustment for him. Missed tackles were a little bit of an issue. I mean, the thing with missed tackles, he's incredibly productive, so you might see a higher missed tackle count, but it's because he's in on more plays. So there's kind of it's a good and bad thing that he's in on so many plays with that one. But I would expect him to be a day one starter. There's not a whole lot of competition there. Kenneth Murray will be one of the starters. And I would expect he would be the other.
ESPN's Matt Miller, our guest at NFL Draft Scout, where you find him on Twitter. Going back to J.C. Latham, Matt, a guy who in high school, kind of the last time he was at left tackle, right? IMG Academy, and it's been a while since he's been at that position. How much does kind of the high school development of a player like that move the needle for you where, J.C. Latham has been on the left side a little bit, but it's been since he was, in math class and taking statistics of these things at 17 or 18 years old?
You at least like that he has done it. That it's not completely unfamiliar. The last 3 years he's been working exclusively at right tackle. I like the muscle memory is probably there. And you talk to guys like Duke Manyweather, who I think is the best offensive line coach in the country, about how hard it is to make that change. Duke has always told me, it's more about the footwork if they can or can't make that change. However, if a player's really good at one spot, with the way the NFL is now, why move them? Why move a great right tackle to the left side just because it's seen as a more valuable spot when in this day and age you really need balance. So it's going to be like the preseason has kind of become like not important. Roger Goodell even says that, but training camp and preseason, I'm going to be tuned in. I want to see how Latham looks if he does play left tackle. And you never know with these things where a guy's actually going to play. They can draft him and say he's going to play here, and it really doesn't matter until the game starts. So then you might draft him with the idea or the hope. And I know JC said himself that he can play left tackle. So he's confident in it. I think that's step number one. If Bill Callahan's confident in it, that's step number two. And then, it's kind of like we will see. I think the biggest thing is he's got to play more like he did his sophomore year and a lot less like he did his junior year, right? He gained like 20 pounds or more. Alabama wanted all their offensive linemen bigger last year after they, kind of got pushed around, especially by Texas in 2022. They had all those guys playing a lot bigger in 2023. So I think for Latham, let's get you back down to that like 335, 340 range. Hopefully that will improve some of the lateral agility, and that would make me feel a lot better about the level of player you're getting.
Matt, just real quick before we get to the James Pierce question, what's a better place to be in, or what's a better draft pick? One that you take for need, or one that's best available? Because we always hear one between the other. Which one is the better?
I think it's best available. I really do. Because you just don't know if it's going to hit, right? The hit rate on draft picks is like 50% or something. So if you're drafted for need, there's always that chance. I mean, it might work, it might not, but I think value is the way to go because you're always churning your roster. The average career is 3 years. So I think you always have to have the mind of, hey, we might have a guy at this position, but, competition is great. You're always trying to get cheaper. You're always trying to get younger. So I certainly lean the best available. I think, it's a much longer conversation about quarterbacks when it comes to that. Like you're probably reaching on quarterbacks outside of the first couple picks in every draft, or even sometimes in the first couple picks with every draft. But I would always lean toward best player available.
You said you're already preparing for next year, and you got a name of James Pierce Jr. There in Knoxville, Tennessee. What do you like about him? Because, man, does he get a lot of buzz coming into this next season, and rightfully so.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, rightfully so. The first step quickness is phenomenal. The ability to bend. I had one scout tell me he would have been the first defensive player drafted this year. So, like, he would have gone ahead of Leatu Latu. He would have gone ahead of Byron Murphy, Dallas Turner, all of them. Like, he was that good. So I think everything that he does gets you pretty excited. But again, it's the quickness. It's the motor, the energy that he plays with is ideal. And he does that, that high-end athleticism, the high-end motor, and then you get elite production in the SEC. Finding those three things together is pretty hard. A lot of times we'll see a guy, elite athleticism, like terrible motor, or elite athleticism, production's not there. Like Chop Robinson, guy had 6 sacks in college, but he runs like a 4.38. With Pierce, you get that elite athleticism and the fact that he has double-digit sacks, and his pressure rate last year was over 21%, which was top 5 in all of college football. So you're really getting the total package when it comes to James Pierce.
ESPN's Matt Miller crushes it covering the NFL
Matt.
Draft. One of our absolute favorite guests at NFL Draft Scout, where you find him on Twitter. Matt, it's crazy to me. You're saying that like every evaluation you have doesn't just immediately happen. Like it's not always gospel. Like what the heck, man?
I wish. It would make my job a lot easier. Also, I think it would be a lot more fun to be right all the time.
Yeah.
I would like to try that and see what happens. Yeah.
You would, but you create a whole lot of enemies, Matt. I'm talking about a lot of enemies.
I love it. I love it. Ramon Foster's reaction to that coming up next, because Matt Miller tells us he sees J.C. Latham as a guard. Ramon has spoken on this before. We'll do that conversation again next. Hey, what's going on? It's Will Bowling here from my friends at Lee Company. Do you have a ceiling light fixture that flickers? Do you need an extra outlet or two? Or, hey, do you just have wall switches that maybe don't seem to work the way they are supposed to? Well, these all seem to be simple issues. However, they are rarely do-it-yourself projects. And look, dealing with electricity requires the expertise of an experienced professional. Call the pros over at Lee Company. Their electrical team can solve any problem you have safely and efficiently. And right now, you can enjoy $20 off an electrical service call for a limited time. I know this number. You got to remember this one too. 615-567-1000. That's the number I call instead of trying to fix electrical stuff myself. Just let Lee Company take care of it for you. And go online to leecompany.com to schedule an appointment today. That's 615-567-1000. Lee Company, all you need. Friday morning, on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up hour number one. And ESPN's Matt Miller says, I don't know more than Bill Callahan, but I think J.C. Latham might be a guard. Ramon Foster, what do you think?
I can see that, definitely. I've talked about that before. His movements look like it. Looks powerful. A guy that is very strong in the run game, athletic enough to get to the second level too. Here's the thing about J.C. Latham. J.C. Latham can be a really good left tackle or a really good guard also. It's a matter of how quickly he adjusts to the NFL speed. Y'all know that's one thing I always bring up when it comes down to pass setting. Like, it's one thing to dominate people as it pertains to, like, all right, the run game and strength and stuff like that. But the speed off the edge is where you want to find yourself excelling more than anything. If he's got speed and strength, and the flexibility to move and use his hips and knees and legs and lower body, 100% keep him at left. But again, you got a guy who easily has two fallback plans, moving the right tackle or moving the interior to guard right there. Just look at him, you'll see that. But he's been slated here as being a left tackle of the future. So it's all got to play out for sure, Will.
I think, on this show, we always like to have varying opinions because how boring would it be if we just had the same opinion and same takes in terms of, oh, yeah, we love that pick. Oh, that was an A+. I think that's what I loved about Matt Miller coming on here and giving his breakdown of maybe what he saw, not necessarily in, what the Titans saw. He just saw him as a right tackle primarily. And what the Titans needed, I guess he looked at it as, I would rather have had maybe Olu, who had played the majority of his time at left tackle at Penn State. And I don't think he's saying this is a bad pick overall. I just think he thought if they're going to take a left tackle because that's their need, then they're going to take a left tackle. What I kind of think now, guys, is when we've talked to Rand Carthon after the draft, they obviously believe he can play left tackle. Absolutely. I think they looked at it as he's the best available tackle after Alt was gone. And we still don't know what they would have done if Alt was available. But after Alt was gone, they really did think he was the best tackle on the board. Yeah. Right or left, they thought he was the best tackle. And what they want to do with him moving forward, they can do because they do have Bill Callahan. And they feel comfortable enough with, hey, we're going to do left, but if it doesn't work out, worse things comes to worse, you go over to right. But I think it's one of those things where they took the best available tackle on the board.
And it's why you have a coaching staff, right?
Yeah.
I think people are going to hear that quote or read it on a website of Matt Miller saying that on our show and think that it is inherently a totally negative take. We were talking about this yesterday, guys. The fact that J.C. Latham could be a really good guard isn't necessarily a bad thing for his career at left tackle.
It's not.
It just means he could do both.
It just means he can do both. Mm-hmm. And that versatility is what this team's got to be searching for anyway. Yes, he could probably excel at either one of them. I'd love for him to lock down the left tackle. Is that where y'all are too?
Absolutely.
If it shows that he can keep the quarterback clean, bam, we
got the number 7 pick. Absolutely.
Yeah, it 100%. Justifies a lot, right? It justifies a lot if he's a left tackle for the future right there. But if not, you got a plan. And you can set that up. The biggest thing, too, that I thought Matt Miller said was this. He's not Bill Callahan. And never will he try to be smarter or bigger than him, too. I think that's super unique in him saying that and acknowledging, look, whatever they got going on inside that building, he's not privy to. Mm-hmm. So because of that, hey, he's got to believe what the Titans show him with the product that shows up on the field in the fall.
Yeah, and just as fans, right? Like, the F&M Bank chat explodes in that conversation. Like, if you just had analysts telling you what you wanted to hear, they wouldn't be doing their jobs. And you would look back in 5 to 10 years when some of these guys hit or don't hit, and you're going to be angry that they didn't tell you the truth and just told you what you wanted to hear, right? Like, you can't call somebody a clown just because they have a nuanced opinion on something. And Matt Miller even said it in the interview with us. Like, I don't know all the information they do. I'm working as a one-man scouting department. They have 20. It's just my opinion. Great. Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for them to get to that point with JC too, can you imagine the conversations that they went back and forth on? Because Fashion New, I'm sure, was high on some people's levels. It was your flavor of the month on what you wanted to do and what kind of identity you needed as a team too. Yeah. And to your point about the analysts just saying what they want to, one of the biggest ones, and I went through a thread of like mock draft and draft night quotes from people, and it was Mel Kiper Jr. saying, "I'll see you guys all at Jimmy Clausen's Hall of Fame speech."
Everybody's got misses.
Right?
I mean, this is just not like it's like being a hitter in baseball.
Yeah.
If you hit 400, you're doing kind of decent in this thing for a guy's long-term 10-year outlook. If everyone wanted to put it on paper, like things happen, things change, variables change. Guys have injuries. Guys have different coaches that don't develop them. Like it's the NFL. It's not gospel what these draft analysts say, but it is an interesting perspective.
It is. It is.
615-737-1045. How you joined the discussion. Coming up, Tyler Boyd, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver, the latest on his contract negotiations with the Titans and how one move elsewhere in the NFL might help the Titans add Boyd to their roster. That's next.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh, former Panthers wide receiver. Current free agent DJ Chark agreed to terms with the Chargers on a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. New landing spot for Chark might leave some room open for Boyd in Tennessee. 12 players from the 2021 NFL Draft have officially had their fifth-year options declined. Yesterday was the deadline, most notably Mac Jones, Kadarius Toney, Justin Fields, and Titans cornerback Caleb Farley. In the NBA, Knicks finally get the 76ers off their back, winning 118-115, winning the series 4-2. Jalen Brunson putting the team on his back, 41 points, 3 rebounds, 12 assists. The Bucks also getting bounced out of the playoffs courtesy of the Pacers, losing Game 6, 120-98. Pacers getting 41 off the bench with Obi Toppin and T.J. McConnell. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
$7 a.m. in Nashville as hour 2 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will begins. RKW brewed up by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone. A loaded show lineup this morning that includes Brent Hubbs of VolQuest and On 3 coming up in 15 minutes. North Carolina linebackers coach Tommy Thigpen will stop by at 8 o'clock, scouting the newest Titans linebacker signal caller in Cedric Gray. Jim Nagy, the executive producer of the Senior Bowl, joins the show at 8:20. And Jeremy Fowler, ESPN NFL reporter, breaks down the latest with Tyler Boyd and the Tennessee Titans at 9:20. 615-737-1045 is our number. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. Robert Walsh, our producer. I am Will Bowling, reminding you on this Friday, if you woke up this morning, you didn't feel the Friday energy, the sun's not shining, the weather is gloomy, it is Friday, and we are imploring you to act like it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're 9 to 5.
I was waiting for Bert to do it, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I do my own yell this morning.
The one you don't do anymore that I love, what we gonna do?
Oh, that's right.
What are we going to get on today?
It's...
Party.
Or we're going to get our groove
We're going to get our
A
groove
lot of
on.
people are
We're going to pick
partying.
up a bottle today, Will.
And we'll be doing exactly that at the Install Live with Greg Cosell, Rand Carthon tonight. Predators and Canucks Game 6 at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're letting the liquor talk at the Morgan Wallen concert. Who's to say?
Just don't throw chairs.
My favorite event of the year is tonight.
Is it?
Yes. It always happens at the Install. It's the second annual. It's how many drinks can I get on Buck's tab
Oh, boy.
before they start questioning who I am.
Yeah.
How does that work? I heard we get like tickets or something.
I'm not sure how that
Coupons or
works, but
something?
I do know how ordering a drink on Buck's tab works.
These are two different things
I
we're
order
talking
my
about.
drink, and then I say, put this on Buck Rising.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rising,
no, I know he was-
REISING.
I know he was trying to put it on. I was just curious did we get anything? Like, did we get a couple tickets, free drink tickets? Like,
believe so.
Otherwise, I need to
Did we?
put that on Buck's tab as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Bert was going to teach me how to put it on Buck's tab, like, because I'm a different shade than Buck, okay?
Just say you're
gonna
his
throw that out.
I don't think
bodyguard.
that matters. I don't think that matters.
That doesn't, just say the name.
Sure. Yeah. What I
Okay.
do, I like to tip up front, give them a nice fat tip, maybe like $40, and then they know. Then that covers your drinks the whole night. They're going to treat you right because of that.
Just say his name when no one is around him, and then tell the bartender, baby, I love you.
Whose song is that?
That is Destiny's child.
Say my name.
She's probably
say
grew
my
up by
name.
now.
That is Queen Bee. That is Queen Bee is who that is.
I'm going to get a text from somebody who's like, how do you not know this? I know it's going to happen at some point in time.
But
What do
the
you
way
mean, how
you
do you know
said it,
this?
I didn't know it. I didn't know it either. It
I
was
said
very
it like
calm.
a poem.
Yeah.
Like a poem.
Say my name, say my name.
He said it like what?
A poem.
615-737-1045. The Los Angeles Chargers signed former Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver DJ Chark. This is a one-year deal for the 6-year veteran. Played for the Panthers last year where he had 35 catches for 525 yards in 5 touchdowns. Does that take LA out of the Tyler Boyd sweepstakes? Yes or no?
Yes and no. I say 80% yes, 20% no is where I go. If you ask me a percentage on that one, William Lee, simply because the Chargers need a lot of work. What probably has happened is the fact that the Chargers probably have undercut him as far as how much they want to pay him. I do think at this point, well, you brought up the timeline last time about when D-Hop signed this time last year.
That was a June 10th visit and signing in late July for DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, that's when it was?
Yeah.
Right on cue. My wife asked
you already
me,
got a text.
how do you not know this? Listen, people, I'm trying to do it. Okay, and another text message. How do you not know this? You people let me
It's
do
the
my
way
job.
it was delivered. I
Y'all
wouldn't
let
have
me
known.
Oh, so
my
it's
job.
my fault?
Yes,
No, it's not my fault.
It is. Because if I didn't get that either, I'm a big Destiny's Child fan.
If I go,
Yes.
oh, say, can you see by
Yes,
the
I know
dawn's
exactly
early
what
light?
that
Exactly. Hey,
It's not an R&B song.
I'm the
though.
only one with the brain on this
Not an
morning.
R-
Let's
it's
all
not an
else
R&B
wake up,
song.
please.
I am trying to. I'm
I've been
trying
up
to
since
turn
4
mine
a.m.
on.
earlier than any of you all.
I just had a quarter cup of gas of
Goodness
Folgers
sakes.
right now.
I have
okay?
gas in my system too.
All right, here we go. I'm ready now.
What
I'm
so
ready.
proudly we hailed. Yeah, thanks so much.
I wish it said Will
goodness.
Bowling right
Always
there,
my
okay?
fault. It's always my fault.
It's always
Talk
my
about
fault.
DJ Chark.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think Tyler Boyd's going to the Chargers. And also he supposedly had already met with them, and then came over here yesterday is when Tyler Boyd met with the Titans. And I know he didn't walk away with the deal. Paul Kaharski reporting that yesterday, but said there's still obviously interest there. I just think then you go sign DJ Chark if you're the Los Angeles Chargers. You're getting a little bit more of a veteran player in him because it is a youthful wide receiver room over there. I don't think they have a ton of money to spend right now in LA. So my bet is still that Tyler Boyd is just maybe taking his time, making sure this is the right move for him. Money wise, we don't know what that's going to be yet, but I would think the Titans offer is somewhat pretty good. Especially if Brian Callahan is somebody who has worked with him before and knows what he can bring to the table. So I don't think it's a worry. I think he's coming here. I don't think he's going all the way to the Chargers where he doesn't know the staff. It's across the country. I just think this is the best fit.
So the Chargers and Titans have the same amount of cap space.
Okay.
Titans have, without the rookie class signed, $30.9 million. The Chargers have $30.4 million.
What's the Chark deal?
1 year, 6.
Okay.
Not much of a impact there.
1 year 6 in California. Ooh,
It's not a lot.
taxes is what I'm getting at on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So DJ Chark last season played 605 snaps at wide receiver and 165 snaps at slot receiver. So if you're looking at where DJ Chark would fit in the Chargers offense, he can play slot, but he is not primarily a slot receiver. I don't think that the DJ Chark signing makes a massive difference, but it might be enough to give the Titans a little bit less anxiety that he's going to go somewhere else. And I think it also allows the Titans to wait on Tyler Boyd to accept whatever their offer was.
The only thing I will add to that is we don't know what Tyler Boyd is thinking in terms of, do you want to go to a place where there are a lot more veterans in that room? And I don't think that necessarily threatens his role in the offense, but you don't know what he wants to do in terms of that next move. Or would he rather go to maybe a younger room where he's been known in the past at Cincinnati to be that pro that kind of leads the way and teaches some of these younger guys? That's the interesting part too. What type of room do you want to be involved with on top of what type of team?
Yeah, definitely.
Which one do you mean has more veterans? Titans or the
Titans.
Chargers? Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
As far as his role that he's been playing for like the last 4 or 5 years, the Titans make the most sense. Again, the same thing that we talked about when D-Hop left town last year too, was he doesn't have to be in a rush. What does OTAs do for a guy like him? You know what I'm saying? Especially if he knows the head coach. It'd be awesome to get him in because this is Coach Callahan's first time around the sun as a head coach, Coach Holtz. And just all the new moving parts also. I think it does matter some to get him in sooner if the deal is right.
So it's a 1-year $5 for Chark, but at the same time, that's probably closer to the minimum with incentives that take you up to $5 million if you catch enough passes and have a certain amount of touchdowns. So,
Sure.
As always, the number that comes out, not the real number, when it pertains to these free agent deals. Anthony in Spring Hill wants to talk about J.C. Latham with us this morning. What's up, Anthony?
Hey, guys, before, during, after the draft, just like everybody else, I looked, and almost to a man, all the experts considered Alt, which is, who everybody here was hoping that they would take, a better plug-and-play, ready to go, a better technician. But they all said that J.C. Latham had more talent and was not that far away on technique. But we have the master technician. You can't teach talent. That seems like almost a better fit. I would imagine that you don't have that much of a gap. And with Bill Callahan, I think we have an opportunity to have a better player for a longer time, naturally. That's all I pretty much got.
I like that.
Love the shot.
Thank you, Anthony. I totally agree. And when you're picking in the top 10, you've got more than one blue chip option. I think that's the difference, right, guys, between picking in the later rounds and you get married to a prospect you feel like is a steal. In the top 10, your second choice, your third choice is still a really good choice.
Yeah. And that's why I had mentioned, we don't know what they really thought about Alt. We'll never know if Alt had been at that spot if they would have taken him. We won't know that. However, they looked at the situation like he is the next best tackle. And so, yeah, you're right. Maybe in their eyes, and we heard Diana Rossini report that this was Bill Callahan's favorite tackle in the entire draft. So clearly they saw enough out of him where they think, yeah, we can completely work with this and we can put him at left and it's going to work out just fine.
Looking at the NFL metrics on how they graded him from the combine, it actually had J.C. Latham as a higher prospect grade than Joe Alt. Joe Alt has a 6.49 that says will become a good starter within 2 years, and J.C. Latham has a 6.7 something. What is it? I got it right here. He has a 6.71, which means he's a day one starter.
All splitting hairs.
Splitting hairs. It is.
Coming up next, Brent Hubbs of VolQuest and On3 gives us the latest out of Knoxville, notes on Neyland Stadium's renovation, on Tennessee's roster construction with a key transfer out, a little bit of hoops, a little bit of baseball with Brent Hubbs next.
Nashville is such a great place to live. All right, we got great sports, knew that. Great entertainment, just go to Broadway, all right? Great restaurants. We also have one of the top volume Ford dealers in the country right here in Middle Tennessee, Two Rivers Ford, all right? If you haven't checked out Two Rivers Ford lately, they pretty much got something for everyone. If you're a business owner, Two Rivers Ford has a commercial fleet division, an entire team dedicated to getting your work trucks or vans for the best price and the best financing, and to deliver what you need quickly because they know time is money. And did you know also that Two Rivers Ford also has a mobile experience division? Yes, it's 2024 and everything comes right to you now. Well, Two Rivers Ford comes to you also. If you need maintenance on your vehicles, they'll perform basic maintenance like an oil change or new brakes right at your home or office space. Or you can schedule a pickup and delivery service. Also, Two Rivers Ford will come to your house, come to your place, give you a vehicle, leave you the loaner, service it, and bring it back when it's ready. And guess what all these mobile services cost you? absolutely the same price at the dealership. And when it comes to purchasing a vehicle too, Two Rivers Ford has a team of experts for each type of vehicle, whether it's electric and hybrid experts, Bronco experts, work truck experts. You're always in excellent hands with Two Rivers Ford's team, all right? And in case you did not know, the sales team at Two Rivers Ford, they don't work on commission. They're there to service you, answer your questions, and bring a vehicle to your home or office to test drive, whatever you need. They just want to make your experience the best it can be. There's a reason Two Rivers Ford has been around for over 4 decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Have you ever noticed how many car dealerships there are in the Middle Tennessee area? And they all tell you they have the largest selection and the best prices in town? I'm Liz Allison. I'm here to tell you how to make your life easier. Head straight to Nissan of Rivergate. They truly have the largest selection and the best prices in town. I know this because I'm on car 3 from Bob McCracken and his team at Nissan of Rivergate. Cut out the dealership hopping and make Nissan of Rivergate your only stop. Nissan of Rivergate, 1550 Gallatin Pike North in Madison. NissanofRivergate.com. I'm Liz Allison. If there's anything that I don't like, it's not having enough hot water. That was me way too often until I switched to a state brand tankless water heater. Not only do I never run out of hot water, but I'm saving on my utility bill every month. State Water Heaters makes gas and electric, standard efficiency to high efficiency water heaters, and of course, my personal favorite, tankless water heaters, where the hot water never runs out. Visit statewaterheaters.com and click on the Find a Local Installer link on the main page, and you'll be on your way to owning your very own state brand water heater, just like me.
And we always want some more Vols info from our good friend Brent Hubbs of VolQuest and On 3 Fridays on RKW, even if we haven't seen the Braves play a game all year. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by VolQuest's Brent Hubbs. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday.
Yes,
We
sir.
are.
We are outstanding. Great to listen to Titans radio draft coverage last Friday. Do you have a favorite Coach Mac-ism that you heard from your time with the Titans radio crew last week, Brent?
On air or off air? Because the off air
Yes.
ones I can't probably say. Right?
Fair enough.
Great.
Hubs did.
Brent gets it.
Hey, you was sitting to my right, and Hubs is like, all right, okay, this HR nightmare. we're
In the best ways.
We're after hours now, Hubs.
Oh, my goodness.
Coach Mac after dark, baby.
Yes.
You know what you're gonna get.
Podcast.
I like the whole drop the blade
Yeah.
road grader deal. That's one of my favorites of his for sure.
I love it. Brent Hubbs with us every Friday morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, always bringing the Friday energy. Brent, with Christian Conyer transferring out of the Tennessee secondary, does Tennessee look around the portal to replace him?
I mean, I think they'll look. I just don't think that they're going to end up getting anywhere with anybody. Here's the interesting part about the spring portal. Josh Heupel said this on multiple occasions now. He said it at the Big Orange Caravan stop on Tuesday night there in Nashville. He's talked openly about the value of the culture in your program in the summertime and the concerns about bringing in just a new body this time of year because in a lot of ways your team is established as you head into the summer. Leaders have been identified. In some ways, pecking order for some guys has been identified as well. You got to be careful not to really upset, the apple cart, so to speak, with some of your positions. The other thing about the portal for the spring, guys of value are demanding a lot of money. So, I mean, I think that if it's a high caliber defensive back, where does that put you at from an NIL standpoint, and could that mess with things in your room? You're needing a little depth piece there, but do you need, not necessarily a starter because you feel like you're pretty good with your first three guys. So who's going to come in to be in a depth role as opposed to demanding to be a starter or expecting to be a starter when it comes in? So I think there's a lot more challenges to the spring portal than there is the December portal because of how established your roster is in most cases coming out of spring practice. Now, there are certain teams that have depth issues. Josh Heupel was there in year one where you were taking bodies who had a pulse because you were at 50 scholarships and you're going to have a hard time playing. You needed a lot of bodies there. So where Tennessee's at right now, I think they're very much selective, and because of that, I'm not sure they land anywhere, but they will certainly evaluate all the DBs in the portal.
Brent, we had an ESPN draft analyst on yesterday who said he had one scout tell him James Pierce would have been the first defensive player off the board in this year's draft had he been eligible to come out this season. How big is the NFL buzz around him, just around that campus, and who benefits from the amount of attention he's going to get this season?
Well, I mean, who benefits is going to be, the guys on the other side and guys lining up beside. I mean, I think Bryson Eason is a guy who can benefit greatly from it. Amari Thomas, those inside guys, can benefit from it. I think James Pierce has just an unbelievable skill set and an unlimited, potential. I mean, he did some really nice things last year, but he'll tell you, and Rodney Garner will tell you, not a finished product. So I'm curious to see the step he makes from this past season to this fall. I think the secondary benefits from James Pierce because if you're a corner and James Pierce is getting home, all of a sudden now you can squat on routes and you can pull the trigger quicker to jump a route because you're not concerned about having to cover 4 or 5 seconds, 6 seconds, because you feel like that guy's going to get home all the time. So I think there's a lot of guys on defense who benefit from James Pierce. And I think James Pierce is going to have a big year. If he stays healthy, I do think James Pierce will be giving the commissioner a bear hug pretty early on Thursday night next year.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest and On 3 with us this morning. Hubbs, looking back at last season and this year's draft, what was it? 3 players drafted, 2 offensive, 1 defensive player. I do believe that when you win, everybody has eyes on you. Look at Michigan's situation, right? And the amount of players, Georgia also. With that being said, the quarterback that was drafted, Joe Milton, how much of his play you think somewhat either could have been a little bit better for what the offense entailed and how some of those guys that could have been drafted just weren't because it wasn't enough efficiency last year?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you look at the teams that had a high number of players drafted, they were playing the last couple of weekends of college football, and you're not playing the last couple of weekends of college football if you don't have quarterback play. And that's just the reality of it. And Joe Milton had some moments that were good moments, but he was not nearly as efficient and as consistent as he needed to be. And it hurt the development of the offense. It hurt the success and the efficiency of the offense. Didn't help the wide receivers. I don't think Ramel Keaton was going to get drafted. I didn't think he would have got drafted if you'd asked me this question last August. But he didn't have a chance to help himself because they weren't consistent enough throwing the football, and they didn't do enough things in the middle of the field with the football because of Joe's inconsistency. So, it didn't help them for sure. But I don't know that it cost anybody, an opportunity to get drafted. But you never know for sure. My biggest takeaway from the draft for Tennessee is I was just surprised Jalen Wright did not go on night 2. Ramon, you and I were sitting there, and we thought maybe there was a chance the Cowboys might take him there. But otherwise, I think that as it got late into that 3rd round, there was not enough teams looking for a running back at that point. But I was surprised that he went behind a couple of running backs who were coming off pretty serious knee injuries, because I think Jalen Wright's upside is pretty good. He's not wore out. He's not a guy who's taken a ton of carries going all the way back to high school, and he was really productive at Tennessee. So I was a little surprised, quite a bit surprised that he did not go on Friday night.
Hubbs, if you'd have told me, Ramon, you go get drafted in the 6th round, but it'll be to the world champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, with a young franchise quarterback, I'd probably take you up on that one, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kamal Hadden, it seems like Kansas City has a thing for the Vols, but in general for him, speak about how a guy helped himself from 2 years ago in South Carolina. It looked like he was a maniac out there, but it showed his passion, and it seemed like now he smoothed it over and showed you that he can be one of those 56 draft picks that were selected, and that is still a high praise for a guy like him and anybody in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we give a bad notion to somebody taken beyond the first 2 nights of the draft, right? It's like they're wash-ups or scrubs that got taken. You got drafted in the National Football League with an opportunity to play, at the highest level of football. There's nothing but praise for that. Kamal Hadden, to me, is a fascinating story. Here's a guy who was really immature and struggled with doing some of the things the right way. His journey's pretty fascinating out of Michigan. He went to junior college. He went to Auburn. He left Auburn. He ended up at Tennessee. There's one point in time I would have bet a good amount of money that he was going to be asked to move on somewhere else from Tennessee. Last spring, he comes out of spring. He's Tennessee's most consistent corner. He played with more controlled passion, but the emotion that you were looking for. He had a great spring. And as a result of that, he ended up not going into portal last spring and was Tennessee's best corner. And I'm going to tell you something. When he got hurt last year, Tennessee's secondary and Tennessee's defense suffered. They were a better defense prior to his injury than they were after he got hurt. His injury hurt his draft stock because he couldn't work out individually for teams. He was very limited in what he could do coming off the shoulder surgery. But here's a guy who's just matured. He got his degree at Tennessee. He's the only person in his family to ever go to college and ever get his degree. He's a guy who has matured. I mean, he's handled himself much better over the course of the last 12 months, and as a result, he's given himself a chance to go make a roster in the National Football League. It's on him now but he's given himself a chance by what he's done over the last year at the University of Tennessee. That's what you like to see. Those are the stories you like, Ramon. Guys who take full advantage of whatever opportunity they've gotten, and he did that by growing up and maturing. And again, he's got his degree, and now he's got a chance to maybe make the roster for the World Champs.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us every Friday at this time, breaking down everything Vols. So, Brent, how is the rehab situation going with Brew McCoy? And how does, when you don't have a player necessarily out there physically, building that chemistry with a young Nico Iamaleava, how is he able to do that just in that room, every day, making sure when he is healthy, they're going to have that connection?
Well, I mean, those two guys are friends. Nico is a big fan of Brew, knew of Brew when he was coming out of high school. He and Brew talked when Brew was trying to decide, if he was for sure going to come back. Of course, the injury, kind of made that decision a little easier for him. But they had a lot of conversations. They had a lot of conversations during the year last year about if Nico had a question about something, hey, why is a receiver doing this? Why do you guys do that? He'd go to Brew and ask him that and get answers that way. He and Brew have a really good relationship and friendship. They spend quite a bit of time together in the film room, and obviously Brew's in there with all the other receivers when they have, film sessions as a group. He's out there when they're having throwing sessions, helping those guys. I mean, Brew is a leader by nature. That's just who he is, personality-wise. And he's got the respect of everybody on this team, but in particular, the respect of the quarterbacks and the receivers. He's kind of the old man, right? And I think that it's gone well, and I think it'll show up when Brew's cleared and ready to go. I think you'll see that Nico has a real comfort level with Brew on critical downs because he knows Brew's exactly where he expects him to be, and Brew knows exactly where Nico wants him to be on routes and in windows and that type of thing. So I think their chemistry is good, even though they haven't played catch, so to speak, on the practice field since Brew, obviously suffered that injury last year.
Brent, on the recruiting side of things, you've got the 865 live event coming up at the end of the month. Who can we expect to see at that, and why is this considered just a big event in general?
Well, everybody has one. They have it. It's whether it's a barbecue or whatever. This is not a camp. This is just a day where a bunch of elite prospects come in, and they'll do a barbecue or they'll do a meal, and they just kind of spend a day and play games and do different things. It's not all just football. It's a lot of relationship building, and I think Tennessee's going to have a good number of guys in there. Bryce Donovan Jenkins, whose dad played basketball at Tennessee, I think he's probably going to be here. That he's from Washington, D.C., defensive lineman there. There's a chance Isaiah Campbell could end up coming in. We'll see. He's committed to Clemson, so if he comes, that means he's no longer committed to Clemson because Clemson will not allow you to take a visit if you're committed to them. So we'll see. That's a guy that, Isaiah's a guy that Tennessee checked in on this week and I think has had some good conversations with. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if David Sanders comes back. Maybe Jamie French might be here for that event as well. We'll see. Jamie French is a 5-star wide receiver that Tennessee's dead in the middle of and is involved in right now. So, there'll be a bunch of guys there. That event's been really successful for Tennessee. That kind of kicks off a critical 4 to 6 weeks in terms of official visitors, decisions that are coming down the pike. That'll be a big weekend for guys that are looking to make a decision or getting close. We'll see if Charles House, the big defensive lineman from over in North Carolina, he's going to make a decision in mid-June. He's got an official visit coming up in June, but we'll see if he comes over for that event as well. So that's an important event that Tennessee has established and what we'll continue to do as long as Josh Heupel and his staff are here.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest, our guest Fridays on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Brent, on the basketball front, Innsworth product Chaz Lanier still has his name in the NBA draft process and has until May 29th to potentially pull it out, the North Florida transfer. What's the latest with Tennessee's pursuit of him?
Well, I mean, what he knows is that he is the priority for Tennessee. He is the biggest priority. Now, Tennessee's going to bring in another ball handler for an official visit coming up early next week in Ben Hammond. But the priority for Tennessee is Chaz Lanier. They are all in. They will wait him out and see how, to see what he's going to ultimately end up doing, whether it's the NBA draft or not. So they've made it very clear to Chaz Lanier that he is their priority. And all their focus is in on him, and they're certainly trying to play play for your home state school, and here's the value of playing at Tennessee as a Nashville native. Look what Dalton Connect did coming from a smaller school. Look where he's at in the NBA draft. You want to help your stock. This is what we can do for you here. This is what, how it works, what we're about. We're going to make you a better player. I mean, every sales pitch you can imagine he is getting right now, because I think most people feel like wherever he goes, he is going to significantly change the offense and the potential for any basketball team he goes to. And I think when you look at what Tennessee's assembled to build this roster, you need one more piece, and the piece you need is a scoring piece. And there's no doubt about it, Chaz Lanier can score. So major priority for Tennessee. He knows it, and Tennessee's going to do everything they can to try to make that happen and get that done as they wait to see where his draft stock is with the NBA here. And he waits over the course of the next few weeks to get the answer there.
That's big.
VolQuest Brent Hubbs significantly improves Ramon, Kayla, and Will when he joins us Fridays at 7:20. Brent, great stuff as always. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. You as well. There's Brent Hubbs. Tennessee all in on the Nashville product. Chaz Lanier.
That'd be big for him, man. I'd love to see that come here for sure. Definitely.
Coming up, potential revenue sharing settlement for college football. We've got a number on what Power 5 schools could be paying over 10 years that we can give you coming up next.
So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
With a potential court case in NCAA versus House coming up in January, the settlement talks continue for revenue sharing in college sports. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW, wrapping up the first half of the show. Ross Dellinger writing yesterday, yahoosports.com, a 10-year settlement agreement could cost each power school as much as $300 million over the decade, or $30 million a year. Under this new model, schools may also now choose to provide a scholarship to each roster position, however many are determined for each specific sport. So non-revenue sports like baseball, other sports that don't make as much money, the opportunity to give more money to those players, opportunity to change college sports, $300 million over 10 years. Does that sound like a number that's about right?
Yeah. $300 million over 10 years. Yeah, I think so, considering it's probably the average of it also. I'm sure some places make more or a little bit less than that like that. But $30 million a year is what we're talking about. It's usually what, I remember in college, our budget was like $27 million or something like that. So I can only imagine what it is over time for money lost and stuff like that. This is going to be fascinating to see how they really break this down, man, and where the money is going. You said the scholarships will to betterment.
Yeah, the details of this is $17 to $22 million of revenue distribution cap for athletes, at least $2 million in withheld NCAA distribution for back damages off of this suit, and as much as $10 million in additional scholarship costs related to an expansion of sport-specific roster sizes. That is a concept that was previously unpublicized, that just became public yesterday, about expanding sports like baseball, where you don't just have 11 and a half scholarships for some of these very popular non-revenue sports.
Yeah. Again, we trusted the NCAA for probably a little bit too long, it seems like, with how they govern and how they ruled and how they chose to make money and distribute it too, man. Teams like baseball being held to 11 and a half or 13 scholarships, whatever it is. Volleyball, who also is very popular on other campuses. Look at Oklahoma softball. Like, these are teams that they have to split and say, hey, you need better grades, or you have to be able to collect or pinch together money to be able to afford to pay for school when there was so much money that was being made over these years. I think it's appropriate, Will, and it's probably a little bit less than what it should be, just being honest with you, man, with how they should be repaying this. As much as they want to say we needed the NCAA, they were great facilitators, but they dropped the ball in a lot of different ways as it pertains to cost of living, the distribution of money, the NIL aspect of how they governed it, and just the freedom to just be yourself on campus. Like, you get suspended or have to sit a year out for taking a meal from somebody, but they don't want to give out more money for scholarships. That was very problematic to me. So I'm glad they're somewhat pulling back the curtains a little bit on how they dropped the ball. And imagine what happened before we were able to get to this point.
Yeah, I look at this as, man, there's so many moving parts to all of this right now, and at some point it's got to start to get figured out. And I look at this as being, I think that's a probably decent amount of money, but then you look at the future, especially in terms of the football being the money generator at these schools. Do they decide to expand the playoffs, which means more money, right? That's why they're doing this initially, in terms of why we keep talking about, now we're expanding it to this amount, because it's all about bringing in more money. So the more you do those types of things, the more you're going to have to up that number as well.
So the way I understand this is the SEC and Big Ten will now have more money than everyone else to give more scholarships to non-revenue sports that currently have caps from the NCAA. So the way I understand this from Ross Dellinger, if, let's say, Tennessee wanted to invest more in baseball, they could now give everyone on their baseball team a scholarship. Oh, sure. There are going to be ACC programs that are tradition-rich in baseball that are not going to have as much money from their television deal to give to sports like that. Because, everyone's going to do the same thing in football. The NCAA recently increased the football roster limit for preseason camp from 110 players to 120. The speculation out there from Ross Dellinger is that a lot of sports will have their roster limit reduced and will have scholarships be cut back in order to redistribute those to teams that have 30 to 40 kids. I'll raise my hand on the team I competed on at Tennessee. You'd only have 11 scholarships for the men and close to 15 to 17 scholarships for the women to give out. Now you have actual equality between sports like swimming, track and field, baseball and softball, who will be able to have equal money given to both of them because they won't have to offset what they're giving to football and then using that amount of scholarships to women's teams to offload it and have the same number there. So it's interesting.
You're also going to really need that if you are a team that's all the way over on the West Coast that's now changing the locations of everything they're doing. And I'm not talking about football. I am talking about the other sports. The travel costs go up, right? I mean, that's a whole different dynamic of going across the country to do that. They're not flying in their own private plane over there. These softball teams, these volleyball teams, that's going to suggest that they need more money to do those types of things.
Some of them do. Like I think the Stanfords and UCLA's will.
Yeah.
Like I know for us, we did eventually get to a point where we would have a charter plane take the track team to stuff at Tennessee. So if we had a meet at Arkansas, we would get a charter plane to take us there. So that is a thing for programs that have a ton of money. I don't know if SMU, right? Like some of them I think might be in a little bit of a different situation, but I do think actually a lot of them will have charter planes to take them across the country.
That's such a luxury.
Yeah,
it just is.
Makes a big difference, for sure. 615-737-1045. Coming up, North Carolina linebackers coach Tommy Thigpen, who coached Cedric Gray at UNC, tells you what the Titans are getting in their newest inside linebacker coming up next.
Hey, this is the absolute worst time of year to be dealing with that joint pain. You can't do the outdoor stuff that you love to do, whether that be hiking, going on a jog, biking, playing with your kids, whatever it may be. Listen, you don't have to go through summer missing out on life, though, because you can call QC Kinetics now and find out how they can use biologics from your own body to give new life to those achy joints. QC's regenerative medicine protocols can restore and repair that damaged tissue with no surgery, no steroids, no drugs, and best of all, no downtime. And it is the future of medicine. Tens of thousands of QC Kinetics patients around the country are living their best life just because they simply picked up the phone and made that call. QC medical professionals are under the direction of Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, and he was actually an orthopedic surgeon who became a true pioneer in regenerative medicine, and he is now here to help you. So call QC Kinetics for your free consultation today. It is 615-249-4024. That's QC Kinetics at 615-249-4024.
8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Former Panthers wide receiver DJ Chark agreed to terms with the Chargers on a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. New landing spot for Chark might leave a little hole open for Tyler Boyd to make his way to Tennessee. 12 players had their 2021 NFL fifth-year options decline. Those are from the 2021 NFL Draft. Mac Jones, Kadarius Toney, Justin Fields, and Titans cornerback Caleb Farley, most notably. And in the NBA last night, Knicks finally got the 76ers off their back, winning 118-115, winning the series 4-2. Jalen Brunson putting the team on his back, 41 points, 3 rebounds, and 12 assists. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. Now to UNC linebacker and co-defensive coordinator Tommy Thigpen on 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the second half this morning on a Friday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh making the show happen. My name is Will Bowling. We've got a loaded lineup still to come for you this morning. Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl coming up in 20 minutes. But joining us right now, he is North Carolina linebackers coach, co-defensive coordinator, Tommy Thigpen, breaking down the newest Titans inside linebacker in Cedric Gray. Coach Thigpen, what's going on? How are you?
Guys, good morning. How you guys doing?
What's up,
good
Coach?
morning.
Man, we are great, and we are excited about your linebacker who was drafted by the Tennessee Titans last weekend. What are the Titans getting in a guy and in a player in Cedric Gray?
Oh man, you're getting a guy that's just just totally loves football, guys. I mean, he's obsessed with it. You're talking about a guy that's going to come in early, leave late, going to ask all the right questions, not scared to lead. I mean, he takes a lot of pride in never making the same mistake twice, and I don't ever remember him ever making the same mistake twice his whole duration with us. He's just a guy that pays attention to details. I mean, he practices like his game day. Everything he does, he tries to perfect in his movements, his eye discipline, his hand placements. He's just that guy that every day he comes into the office, he's just coming in to get better. And if it's 1% every day, that's his whole goal.
Coach Tommy Thigpen, UNC linebackers coach, with us breaking down Titans linebacker Cedric Gray. Coach, where did you see Cedric make the biggest improvement over his 3 years with you?
Probably eye discipline, and he stayed another year with us, and we wanted him to be more of an effective blitzer. He wanted to get more sacks, he wanted more interceptions. He could have came out his junior season, but he wanted one more year to perfect his craft. And so his tackling in space is really, really good. His eye, you can't say enough about the things he sees on the football field. I mean, the fact that he can line up and tell you, okay, Coach, 3 technique got reached, the 5 technique, didn't hold the edge. He can tell you things that, that sometimes as a coach, you don't see it. And he just continually, when you're on a football field, he just continually talks it. So if you say improvement, I mean, it's every day he goes out, he's going to work on something. And if he'll make you as a coach, just come up with drills to anything that he may suffer or may, that's not maybe as good for him. He's looking every day to see what he can do to get better.
Coach Thigpen with us this morning discussing Cedric Gray. Coach, congratulations on getting a draft pick. I know that's a huge accomplishment from you seeing your work and your players' work play off also. So I just want to say that to you first and foremost. With that being said, in today's game, it's a couple positions in the NFL is somewhat minimized. And that's running back, that's off the ball linebacker. Coach, from your perspective, just how important are those guys, the inside linebackers, to today's game in general still?
Oh, man, it's in today's game, back when I played, it was 2 backs in the backfield. It was just old school ISO counter. Everything was inside the tackles. And if you notice now, just kind of notice how many wide receivers are being taken. It's quite a bit. And the reason is the game is played more in space. With the Mahomes of the world and the Allens from the Buffalo Bills, they put you out there with these guys that the matchups. So if it's a 3-by-1 formation, the Mike got to walk out. And that guy he's literally isolated with the Mike linebacker. Or if it's a 2-by-2 formation, it's the Will linebacker. Now he's isolated. So they're trying to get these guys in space, and can they catch a 5-yard hitch or a 5-yard out and turn it to a 10 or 15 yards? And so, inside the box is easy. Inside zone and just the simple run game is very simplistic. But it's the passing game. Everybody in that league got a dynamic quarterback. And now everybody got dynamic tight ends, big tight ends that can run like wide receivers, and wide receivers that got serious matchups against backers. So that's what you're seeing in today's game a lot now is just, can these linebackers play in space? Gone are the days of the big old, the Pepper Johnsons of the world, or the big linebacker that was 6'3", 255 pounds. Those guys are gone. We're looking in the league now. It's all about speed. Your eye discipline. Can you slide back in the box and make the tackle? Or can you make this tackle one-on-one with this wide receiver or this athletic tight end?
Throughout the draft process, too, leading up to it, they consult with everybody. I usually say that NFL teams are like the CIA or the FBI. They want as much information they possibly can. What were some of the questions that was asked to you about Cedric Gray and his pre-draft process?
A lot of questions they wanted to ask was, can he make the calls? That was the main question I kept getting. I was like, can he have a green dot? I'm like, oh man, this guy would love to have the green dot. He would take pride in it because that's the quarterback on the defense. That's the guy that lines everybody up, and he's a general. And so that was the question I got a lot was, can he do this? And because, as for us, so much Mike was out the box and the Will was always remaining in the box. So he's, when he was the guy in the box, he was making the calls. When the Mike was in the box and the Mike was calling it. So that was the main question I got. There was nobody ever asked me how physical he is, how tough he is. I never got that question because, all you got to do is watch the tape. He makes plays after play after play. And, I bet you, I can tell you he probably missed on a whole year. The last 3 years, he probably missed less than probably 15 tackles in 3 years. And, he don't make no errors. And so when you watch him on tape, there's no mental errors. There's not many missed tackles. And so you got a complete linebacker that's never hurt. He's played in games, guys, where he's played 101 snaps in a game. Never, ever gets tired. Just in superior shape. So the question is, can he make those calls? Because in the league, there's a lot more two backs than it is in college football where it's all one back. But that was the main thing that people kept asking me.
Coach Tommy Thigpen, he is the linebackers coach at UNC. We're talking a little bit about Cedric Gray. And yeah, that's the conversation here, Coach. Really, in all reality, it looks like they would like him to wear that green dot. And I think a part of the NFL game that maybe goes a little underlooked is there is still room for development here. And I think what a lot of people love about this match is Frank Bush is now in that room as the position coach. I know you know a little bit about him, Coach. How much will this be a benefit for Cedric to have him as a position coach?
Hey, look, Frank is the best in the business. I'll visit him when he was down at the Falcons. Just his command presence in the room is right up Cedric's alley. The way Frank talks is right what Ced needs. Ced was ROTC. Back in high school, and that's the guy. So if there was anybody that I wanted him to play for, man, I was like, when I heard he's going to be playing for Frank, I was like, you got to be kidding, because Frank is the guy. To me, is not a better linebacker coach in the NFL, not a better teacher. Guy is super patient, and he speaks the language of everybody in the room. So he just don't coach to one player. Frank could talk to everybody, and everybody can relate to him. So that matchup between him and Frank, I'm gonna come down there and make. I could not believe. I said that's the one guy out of all the teams. If you could play for any coach, if you could ever play for a guy like Frank, you would watch your game developed probably more fast than any place you go.
We'd love to see you up here. That's really cool because we've just heard so many great things about him. Can't wait to see what he does there on the field with these guys. Another thing that when Cedric talked to us after he was drafted, the question came up about the options to possibly at some point transfer, right? To maybe go to a bigger program. And he said that was never even a thought on my mind. What type of person are we getting in Cedric Gray? And I respect the loyalty, Coach.
Oh, he could have left it. In today's game, Taylor, with the NIL and the transfer portal, kids can jump ship anytime. Somebody comes in and call your coach and say, hey, how much you making? All right, I'm making $150. We'll tell him we'll pay him $500,000. As a lot of coaches would do the same, and they'd leave. You got a chance to change your life in 1 year. And this, like I said, Fed grew up ROTC. He got a dynamic mom in Esther. And his mom would never let him leave Carolina. He came to Carolina as a wide receiver, converted to a linebacker, and his mom was just grateful that that somebody took a chance on her baby, and he excelled. And he excelled in way more than everybody imagined. Started off as a special teams guy. It just kept getting better and better and better, and never was impatient, and just endured and just enjoyed the process of growing. So he believed in us at Carolina, and he felt like as long as we were developing him, he was never going to go anywhere. So going back to your original premise, Taylor, yes, he is as loyal as anybody you've ever been around, providing that you're developing him. Yep. And he's not BSing him. So that's the guy. When he walks into a room, he demands presence. He demands the respect of the room. And like I said, he's not afraid. He is not afraid to voice his opinion when guys mess up.
I love that.
UNC linebackers coach Tommy Thigpen has been our guest this morning. Coach, I'll be honest, I hope we get more UNC guys because I just want to keep talking with you, man. This is a great conversation, and we may just call you to talk defense sometime, man. This has been great.
Y'all want, man. Like I said, that's my new team now.
I love it. Hey, the Blues are similar, Coach. Carolina blue, Titans blue. We can get behind this.
Yeah, if we could just get us some hot chicken over in Chapel Hill.
Yeah. Well, I'll exchange you hot chicken for some of those player exclusive Jordans you got. How about that?
I love it. Coach Tommy Thigpen has been our guest. Coach, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Guys, I look forward to seeing you guys. I'll be down there probably at the end of the month when y'all start OTAs.
Perfect.
Awesome, Coach.
We will see you then. There he is, Coach Tommy Thigpen with us here this morning. That is an awesome breakdown. And
that was.
Man, I don't think he could have been any more complimentary of your linebackers coach here in Frank Bush. Said, if there's anyone I wanted Cedric Gray to play for, it's him.
That's big.
There is not a better linebackers coach in the NFL, in my opinion, he says.
That's big.
That was that was great. Can we replay that?
That's a national championship winning position coach at Auburn.
Woo.
And Tommy Thigpen, who's been at Tennessee, he's been everywhere.
Coaches know.
He's got a good opinion on that for sure. And coming up next, we bring in another guy who can speak to not only Frank Bush's experience, but 6 of the 7 draftees that will wear two-tone blue this upcoming season because they were at the Senior Bowl. And we go straight to the source. The executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, joins us next. Here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, you know how much we value the Reese's Senior Bowl, the process of finding the best prospects in the draft, watching them go head-to-head, and then finding that value in the draft. The Titans clearly felt the same way. 6 of their 7 new members of the team, graduates of the 2024 Reese's Senior Bowl. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined now by Senior Bowl Executive Director Jim Nagy here on the show. Jim, you're a very busy man this time of year. Thank you for giving us a couple minutes this morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, guys. 6 of 7. That's a pretty good percentage. I like that.
Big time.
It absolutely is. So we went straight to the source and the best possible source to talk about these guys. And, Jim, I want to start with the guy that I know Coach Mack said you could almost qualify as 2 humans in T'Vondre Sweat. How much did he help himself in Mobile in the process, and what do you like about it?
Yeah, he's unique, man. I mean, I posted that on draft weekend. There wasn't another guy in the draft like him. That's why I thought he was the most truly unique guy in the draft. Yeah, those guys are that kind of size. I mean, he just overwhelms people. There were some reps down here that physically dominant reps that not many guys can take unless they have that guy's size and power. And he's not just a space eater. Like, yes, he's going to create for other people because he's going to occupy. He's going to occupy a bunch of blockers just with his sheer mass alone. But then he's got unbelievable inline power, which we saw down here. Poor Bo Limmer, the center from Arkansas, who's probably going to start someday for the Rams. I mean, I think Bo's a really good player. Just walked him back and put him on skates. So hard guy to find. And everyone in the league right now, it seems like one of the trends right now is everyone's looking for really big people inside. And there wasn't a more dominant man that size in this year's draft than T'Vondre Sweat. So, I know the thought was that maybe the Titans reached a little bit, but I didn't see it that way because those guys certainly don't grow on trees.
Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, is our guest. And Jim, as you look at the fit from Sweat's perspective, how much will he be helped by playing next to Jeffrey Simmons, having a former teammate in Keandre Coburn in that room? Is this, you feel like, one of the best fits from his point of view?
Yeah. God, anytime you get to play alongside Jeffrey Simmons, I mean, my God, any young defensive tackle like that, right? But no, I think those guys will complement each other really well. It'll be good having a guy like Coburn in the room that someone he's familiar with. But you'll get. I'm sure you've already got a chance to meet T'Vondre on the Zoom call that the Titans probably put you on. It's not going to take long for that guy to make friends. He's there's some rookies need a kind of a sponsor in the building to help them walk them around and get them acclimated. I think Big T Sweat will get along just fine, but I'm sure he'll enjoy being with Keandre again.
Jim Nagy with us this morning discussing some of the prospects from the Senior Bowl. Jim, be honest. It was more than him, embarrassing the center from Arkansas. He put that man backwards, okay? You undersold that one a little bit, Jim.
Yeah, that one hurt. I mean, just watching it hurt. I was glad Bo got up from that one. Trust me, we don't like any players getting hurt here in Mobile. And when I saw him bend backwards like that, I was like, please get up. But no, he's gonna be a fun centerpiece of that defense. I mean, it's hard. I don't care what scheme you're playing. If you don't have that guy on the nose, that's a really good one. It's hard to play dominant defense without that guy. So I was lucky for a lot of years in New England. We had Vince Wilfork, and he was kind of the centerpiece. Yes, there was other great players around Vince, but he kind of made it all go. So I hope T'Vondre gets up there and gets to work and. Shows everyone what kind of player he can be.
A very proud Tyjae Spears shows up to the Senior Bowl, man, and a very proud Tyjae Spears also saw Jaquan Jackson get drafted to the Tennessee Titans too. Jim, how do you identify guys like Tyjae and Jaquan to invite to the Senior Bowl when it's usually the big school guys? And what kind of program have you seen Tulane somewhat have over the last 5 years also?
Yeah, I mean, that was a fun one, man, because these guys weren't just teammates. From what I understand, at least the way Tyjae is represented it to me, these guys are boys. These guys are like best friends. So that was a really cool pick to see that one come across. And, yeah, the Tulane program, hats off to Willie Fritz and what he built there. And, I know obviously he went on to Houston, but to take that team to a Cotton Bowl, a group of 5 team to the Cotton Bowl and beat beat Caleb Williams and USC head-to-head a couple years ago, and then I want to say the only regular season game they lost this year was at Ole Miss, and that was without Michael Pratt, their quarterback, who got drafted by the Packers. So they've done a great job. And going back to Jaquan, I mean, when I started watching him last summer, I didn't think he was that much different than Zay Flowers, to be honest with you. Same size, similar explosiveness. He just played at a group of 5 schools, so you didn't hear about him as much. So he's really good with the ball in his hands, and get him in space and let him go. I mean, there's some. I know you guys have seen the highlight clips, but I would put his highlight reel up against most smaller receiver in this draft. I mean, he was certainly a fun player to watch.
Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Always enjoy having him on. All right, so there was a young man by the name of Jarvis Brownlee Jr. That had quite the Senior Bowl down there in Mobile. The Tennessee Titans get him. He feels like he dropped a little in the draft. He's a little chip on his shoulder. Just love the way this guy plays. So aggressive. How big of a fit is he for this Titans defense?
Yeah, I think the Titans stole him, Kayla. I think to me, he had one of the best weeks of anyone, and you didn't hear it during Senior Bowl week. I don't know what people were watching. I was like going back and watching the tape myself. I'm like, why aren't more people talking about Brownlee? And I tried to do that myself, and I tried to do that for our players. The guys that come down and have great weeks. I like to get that out there about the guys that really I felt like helped themselves. So he's going to have that chip on his shoulder, man. This kid is South Florida through and through. A lot of swagger to him. I love his attitude, love his confidence. He was training close by here to Pensacola, and we went over there for like a little community service activation day the week before the Senior Bowl. And as soon as I met him, I'm like, okay, this guy's got something to him. Like he carries himself like a DB. I think you're going to like this guy. Doesn't back down. I think the reason he probably dropped a little bit, if he did drop, I mean, he was, going back to when we put the roster together, I think 5th round is where most teams had him. Now I'm surprised he didn't go higher based off the offseason he had. But it's just a size thing. He's not a real big guy. But what you love about him is he plays bigger than that. You put on the tape, you don't question size or strength or physicality, any of that stuff. This kid's just a baller. But if you just stare at the number, if you stare at the height weight numbers, you're going to be like, man, this guy's average, average size guy. But he certainly doesn't play like that. He's going to be he and Roger McCreary, just going back to guys that have been here in Mobile, and I know Roger well, being a Mobile kid, like those two guys are cut from the same cloth. They're going to get along really well in that defensive backfield. They play a lot of the same way.
Another steal, because they didn't have a 3rd-round pick, and it really did feel like a 3rd-round pick, was the 4th-round pick, Cedric Gray, linebacker out of UNC. We just talked to Tommy Thigpen, his linebacker coach there at UNC, just raved about him. I'm interested to see just what you saw out of him and how much he's just a plug-and-play player.
Yeah, I was surprised said lasted to day 3. I really was, just because he can stay on the field all 3 downs, and that's what every team's looking for right now. I mean, you start seeing the other linebackers, the 2-down guys that are project mainly as special teams players going off, 5th through 7th round. Those guys that can stay on the field and cover people usually go in the first, usually rounds 2 and 3. There's not many off-the-ball linebackers that go in round 1 anymore. But Ced's a guy that's going to play on all 3 downs. He's got a really nice feel in zone coverage. That was the one thing I thought showed up down here consistently, was just his route feel, his ability to read the quarterback and still feel routes. And he did that in the game. I mean, he had an unbelievable game. Going back, like we have to name MVPs and players of the game, right in the immediacy of the whole thing. If we would have the benefit of going back and watching the tape, I mean, Cedric Gray could have been the MVP of the game. I mean, he made plays in space in the run game, getting isolated on checkdowns versus running backs and stuff like that, and then making plays in coverage, showing off his athleticism. So getting him in the 4th round, I do think he's going to be a guy, without knowing Tennessee's depth chart. I don't know what they look like at linebacker right now. But he's the guy, to me, I feel like a guy that could start year 1.
It's not deep, Jim.
Yeah, thin. Absolutely thin at linebacker. Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl is our guest. Speaking of linebackers, Jim, the Titans say they see Miami safety James Williams as a linebacker. What about his skill set will help him make that transition at the next level?
Yeah, and that's what we saw him as, too. That's why we brought him here as a linebacker. That was part of the conversation with James when we connected with him, because he was a junior. We could bring juniors this year, so this is one of the 17 juniors that we brought. And that was the conversation. Hey, James, the majority of the league sees you as a linebacker. We see you as a linebacker, so let's get a head start on this thing and show these teams what you can do down there in the box full time. So, and he played a little bit of safety down here, but it was mostly linebacker stuff. What you see is a big frame kid with long arms, good reach, who is just going to outgrow the safety position at the next level. I mean, that's just what it was. I mean, this guy's going to still continue to mature and develop physically, and he's going to be 235 pounds, I would guess, when it's all said and done. I mean, there are not many teams playing with safeties at 18 yards at 235 pounds. So it's good they're getting that going, and I think the immediate fit would probably be as a dime linebacker, get him involved in some packages because he's used to playing in coverage. So he will be a good matchup guy against tight ends. But yeah, that's another guy. I mean, I felt like they got really good value for all these picks. You're talking about Cedric Gray in the 4th and Brownlee in the 5th and James later on than that. And that, I mean, to me, they got value throughout this draft class.
And Jim, at pick 252, Jalen Harrell, who not only comes from a national championship program at Michigan, whose dad at Florida State, playing in the NFL with the Lions from 1979 to 1983. What are the Titans getting in Jalen Harrell, and where can he fit into this defense this year?
Yeah, I'm surprised that I thought this would be a Jim Harbaugh pick right here because I know that he was a real favorite of all the guys in the building in Ann Arbor. Really high character guy. Has played in a rotation there. You just look at what Michigan's cranked out on the edge over the last 4 to 5 years, going back even before Aiden Hutchinson to the Kwity Pays and Josh Uches and guys like that have been productive NFL players. Like, this guy's one of the next in line. And so another one, I thought he would probably go 5th or 6th round. He goes in the late 7th. To me, he's a guy that makes your football team, because he can play the run. He's got some pass rush to him. He showed that down here during Senior Bowl week. He had some really nice one-on-one reps. So I think you've got a 3-down player that's going to play in the kicking game, and to me, those guys get on the bus on Sundays. They find a way to make the team and have a role on game day. So another great pick. You can't go wrong when you're picking guys that come from that pedigree and have high character and love football.
Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl with us this morning. Jim, a couple things, man. One, you ended up having 2 first-round quarterbacks participate in the Senior Bowl this year, and Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. That's huge, number one. But also, what does next year's Senior Bowl and draft class look like? Because we heard so much about, the back end of this draft, and it seemed like there was still a lot of quality. What do you project the quarterbacks and also your Senior Bowl class to look like next year?
Yeah, it was big with the 2 QBs going in the top 12. That's big for us. We had a run of 7 straight years with first rounders. It's like, Herbert and Josh Allen and those guys. And then we had that streak snapped last year because that's what the class was last year. So it's good to get a couple first rounders back. We had 43% of this year's draft, which was the best number we've ever had 110 guys drafted. Looking forward to next year. There's going to be a lot of names at quarterback. I mean, I don't know too many of them yet. The board is set. Our guys in-house have all the group of 4 players done. Kayla, I'm sorry. That sounds really weird saying power 4 instead of power 5.
Tough.
I hate it.
At least you know what WSU can produce, right?
No, I mean, we talked about that. We did 7 hours of radio on Sirius on day 3, and Coach Neuheisel and I had a little sidebar in the broadcast just talking about that, how, Washington State and Oregon State are getting left out, and I think it's terrible. It's terrible. Washington State's a great program, but no, so I don't know this class. I got a lot of catch up to play here in May, June, July, and August, and get caught up on next year's class. But of the quarterbacks I've seen, like I saw Carson Beck a few weeks ago at their spring game. Pretty familiar with Quinn Ewers from Texas. I've seen him play live a couple times. I've seen him at a couple camps. So I've got a decent start on the QB class. But overall, back to your question about the depth, I do think it's going to be deeper throughout, just because this is the last year of having the guys with the extra COVID years. So, I put that tweet out, probably a month ago, just talking about how in a normal year, as a scout, you're going into these major programs, the NFL producing programs like Bama and LSU and Michigan and all those schools, and you're writing probably 16 to 18 players and, 10 to 12 draftable guys at a lot of those programs. And then for lesser Power 5, Power 4 programs, you're around 10 or 12. And then in the group of 5s, it's 3 to 5, somewhere in that range typically. Well, our staff this spring, we wrote 30 plus seniors and juniors now that we have to look at both, but over 30 guys at Louisville, over 30 guys at Wisconsin, over 30 guys at Oregon. And it just on and on and on. So the workload for these scouts has doubled and tripled in some cases. So that's what I'm saying. Like day 3 of the draft should be the best day 3 we've seen in a long time, and then it'll probably get back to normal after next year. But this year's draft could be loaded, and that's why you saw some smart GMs like Howie Roseman trading this year's picks for 2025 picks on draft week, and I think Howie added 3 draft picks for 2025. So it should be an interesting year.
Real quick, Jim, I know there's always one really good story. I mean, there's a ton of good stories that come out of the draft. A lot of them you start to see kind of form at the Senior Bowl. Was there one in particular that you just thought, okay, this was pretty neat?
Well, I think the Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, the Florida State defensive lineman, getting reunited in L.A. with the Rams is pretty awesome. And for us, Braden Fisk is a guy that I'm going to stay attached to forever. I mean, I love that kid and what he did this year. I mean, going from 4th or 5th round pick, going into the process, that's where all the teams had him when we put our roster together. Everybody had 4s and 5s on Fisk. He goes 39 overall. That's an incredible jump in the draft process. And now to go to a place like the Rams, and not that he's going to replace Aaron Donald, but I know they expect him to be, that type of disruptive force. And then, just reuniting with Jared Verse, 2 guys that started college football. Verse was at Albany, and Fisk was at Western Michigan. And they end up as 1st and 2nd round draft picks to the same team. I thought that was a pretty cool story.
Jim Nagy, best of the business at evaluating talent in the NFL draft, executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim, congratulations to you again, and a hat tip on another fantastic year, a fantastic group of players, and we always enjoy having you on. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. And if we don't talk, have a great summer. Maybe we got to get you guys down for a Hall of Fame golf event some year down in around July 1st. We'd love to have you down if you could drive down 65 for a weekend.
Let's do it.
That'd be fun, Jim.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. You as well. There's Jim Nagy with us here this morning on the show, breaking down 6 of the 7 new Titans.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
In this draft class.
Man, they do such a good job at that, don't they?
Yeah, I do. There's so many more questions that Jim could have provided us answers to. I wanted to know, who went back for NILs that would have been better suited to come out this year. But I get it. I mean, heck, if I can get all that up front without having insurance of what the NFL is, I somewhat get it. Somewhat.
Coming up next, Preds, Canucks, Game 6. Everything you need to know, and one element of Preds games that might be coming back tonight on the other side.
Mother's Day is almost here. Hey, y'all, don't get caught lacking, okay? Diamonds last forever. They got a lot of great deals going on at Genesis Diamonds, man. I'm here to tell you, you can celebrate Mother's Day by getting her something in a big, big way, man. Whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, okay? She will appreciate something thoughtful and timeless from Genesis, and you don't have to break the bank either. Genesis put together a fantastic collection of sentimental gifts, things that she can wear all the time, like layered necklaces, colored gemstones, bracelets, rings, pearls, eternity bands, diamond pendants, whatever you need. And this year, some of Genesis exclusive designers have come in with even more great pieces, new fashion-forward designs that any mom will appreciate. Stop in and let one of Genesis' trusted advisors help you find something special, something meaningful, the best gift you'll get this year, all right? Let the team at Genesis do what they do best, help you find the most perfect, most affordable, and most beautiful piece of jewelry for the occasion. Genesis is the premier jeweler here with the reputation of high quality and extreme value. You will love the experience, all right? Happy Mother's Day from Genesis Diamonds. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Predators and Canucks, Game 6 tonight inside Bridgestone Arena. We welcome you back into the end of Hour 3 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed up by 8th and Roast. So the Preds are dropping hints that Run This Town will return as the pregame puck drop music. Do you care?
Look, I'm not from Nashville, so I wasn't here when the team arrived here, but I will say this. There are things that just become tradition that you should keep as tradition. And I know we've talked about switching some things up with, the in kind of arena stuff that goes on. But this is something that when I came here the year after they went on that run, I remember my first playoff game here covering it and sitting up where the media sits, and they do this whole light show, and this Rihanna, Jay-Z Run This Town starts blasting, and the arena's just bumping, and people are going crazy, and you're getting chill bumps, and you're seeing the catfish images on the ice, hop, and they're introducing, they show the players on there. That was really cool. And I know that fans that have been here and that are long time fans of this team probably enjoy that. And so I didn't even know they had taken that away.
Yep.
Until recently. So I think it matters, especially to those that are the fans. Like, that's the kind of tradition that you're like, we're back in playoffs, right? Like, it means something.
Yeah, I'm with you. Everything means something here. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep it. If it's it's not hurting anybody, it is what it is. I remember our kickoffs right before games in Pittsburgh. I heard the same. I think it was AC/DC that we played every single time, and it just lets you know it is game time. Mm-hmm. Some stuff don't overthink. I think we as people and just in general, because we think everybody is so microwave these days. Society is so microwave that we have to change and keep it refreshed and all those type of things. Jerseys, all right, I get it. The City Connect stuff, that team, all right, I get it. But when it comes to what's yours, how you identify as your fan base, you definitely do it. And on top of that, you need it. You absolutely need it this weekend. Tonight,
baby.
We put this on a poll if you want to give your thoughts. At Ramon, Kayla, Will, do you care about the Preds playing Run This Town before puck drop of playoff games? Only 38% of you say yes. So 62% of you do not care. Jinxes are not real. Nothing that I say or do impacts what happens in the field of play. It is impossible to jinx something. And if you believe in that, then lose a tooth tonight, put it under your pillow, because you'll get $10 from the Tooth Fairy probably then too. Sorry, kids. But essentially, I want it back. I want Run This Town back. Don't overthink it, like Ramon said. This is like when they tried to change Y'all Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind up in here on the power play for 5-1-5-0 by Dierks Bentley. And that lasted about 2 games because there was an outcry from the fan base and the Preds changed it back. For some reason, teams have this idea that they can just do things like this that fans care about and nobody will notice, and they overthink so much every single aspect of this. Run This Town always gets a good interaction. It's always fun. It's always, it fires people up before the game more. I don't think it will have any impact on the game. That being said, I like it and I want it to be back. It's a cool tradition. And for a city that doesn't have more than 25 years of pro sports history, whatever tradition we have, we've got to cling to, right? Folsom Prison Blues at Titans games of the Pain Train. Untouchable. Should never be gone. Ever. You should always... That's the sound of the Pain Train! And I want Run This Town. It's that simple. I want those two things. I want Nash on top of the Batman building, banging against each side of the spires, doing a Let's Go Predators chant. It's really not that difficult. It's pretty simple.
You bring up something that's super, I don't think we bring it up enough. And I guess it's because we're so embedded and deep into the webs of all things sports as it comes to Nashville. But this is a very young sports town.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's people like me who were born when the Preds and Titans were born have only known certain traditions. And it's cool that Pittsburgh has Renegade. It's cool that other cities have signature songs and signature things that they do.
Let's go Buffalo. Yeah, all of that.
Literally, we don't have that. We have to create that. And I feel like fans here, it's not, again, something that's going to dictate what happens on the ice or dictates what happens on the field. But fans in Nashville want ownership of something that is uniquely theirs and something that is uniquely belonging to us. and we see fans from all across the country come into our stadiums, come into our arenas, and do their thing, and we have nothing to counter with because we've not created that level of tradition in a song and a chant and things like that over 25 years. So when you have something that is indicative of that is emblematic of a tradition unique to you, that you have good memories associated with, why take it away?
Preach.
Anyone who's calling you stupid for having that take, it's your take. And you as a fan are entitled to feel however you want to feel about traditions in the city, about the way your teams operate. Don't let anybody belittle you for thinking that it's cool to think this is a Preds thing and a Preds song. Great. You should.
Well, and the thing is, whether they play it or not tonight, and I hope they do, the main thing is they need to win at home. I mean, this is something that has become a not great trend. We talk about good trends all the time. Not being able to win playoff games at home is now becoming a problem. And it becomes a major problem in my eyes if you can't push this to a Game 7 and go back to Vancouver on whatever day it might be. You've got to win at home, at least tonight. And even if you go to Vancouver and you don't win, at least you pushed it to a Game 7, and at least you can say we got one win at home this series, which it should have been more. But they've got to break that nasty trend tonight.
You get this thing to a Game 7, and all of a sudden, all of the pressure is on Vancouver.
They've won 2 up there.
All of it. Per Sportsnet, Nashville's 92 shots on goal allowed are the second fewest through the first 5 games of any playoff series since the stat began being tracked in 1959 to 1960. They've only allowed 92 shots on goal. You could make the argument quite easily that the Preds should be playing for the series tonight. Mm-hmm. You could make an argument easily as well that the Preds should have already won the series in Game 5. Take care of business. You've not won a home playoff game in years. This would be 6 straight losses at home in playoff games if you lose tonight. For all the things we say about Smashville on a Saturday night and Nashville Predators having the best home ice advantage, most unique, prove it. Win. Win in front of those fans.
Prove it.
Philip Forsberg, 6 points, his most in a single postseason since 2018 when he had 16. Philip Forsberg now has 13 points in 14 career games when his team is facing elimination. That is the most among all team skaters. If I were a betting man, which sources say that I am, I would throw a Preds money line and a Philip Forsberg anytime goal onto my bet slip tonight and make some U.S. cold hard cash.
Big time players step up in big time moments.
Yep. Nashville let thing out tonight, man.
Yep.
And I think Roman Josi woke up a little bit in Game 5 in Vancouver, too. Him and his aggressiveness on the power play, I need to see more of that.
Yep. Power play needs to be better overall.
And the fact
period.
that you got that opportunity to do it. Like, you got another game. Love it.
Yeah, you do.
11th time the Preds have trailed 3-2 in a playoff series. They are 1-10 in those situations. 1-7 when starting on the road. Nashville trailed its 2016 Western Conference first-round series against Anaheim before winning Game 6 at home and Game 7 on the road. 615-737-1045. Coming up, if you missed our conversation with North Carolina linebackers coach Tommy Thigpen, you are going to love what he has to say about your newest linebacker on the Tennessee Titans. That's next.
All right, I see a little peak of sun. Yeah, it is supposed to rain a little bit this weekend. So maybe that entices you to monitor your windows, make sure they're not leaking, because if they are, you need new windows from Window Nation. And good news, because it is the semi-annual sale time of the year. 50% off all window styles, plus 0 interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week.
Kayla, that's the thing. People got to stop waiting around, okay? We've told them all they do are windows. They are experts at it. Installed over 200,000 windows last year. You probably think, well, it's a small. No, it's not. It's 40 times more than the average window company, with 96% of them requiring no follow-up service, which means they do it right. They do it right because they measure each window three times to ensure a proper fit. Here's the thing. Kayla just told you. It's a semi-annual sale. 50% off of all style windows. Guess what? They have over 1,500 custom vinyl window combinations available. You can pick any one you want to. 0 interest for 5 years and an additional bonus discount for booking your appointment this week. Kayla just told you. Call 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com.
9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Former Panthers and Jaguars wide receiver DJ Chark agreed to terms with the Chargers on a one-year deal worth up to about $5 million. New landing spot for Chark, which could leave the hole open for Tyler Boyd to come to Tennessee. 12 players from the 2021 NFL Draft have had their fifth-year options declined. Some of those players, Mac Jones, Kadarius Toney, Justin Fields, and Titans cornerback Caleb Farley, most notably. Earlier in the morning, Tommy Thigpen, UNC linebacker coach and co-defensive coordinator in Chapel Hill, was on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, and had this to say about Titans' fourth-round pick linebacker Cedric Gray wearing the green dot.
The main question I kept getting, I was like, can he have a green dot? I'm like, oh, man, this guy would love to have the green dot. He would take pride in it because that's the quarterback on the defense. That's the guy that lines everybody up, and he's a general.
Great conversation with Coach Thigpen. If you missed that, make sure you go check it out on the Ramon, Kayla, and Will podcast channel, wherever you get your podcast at. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Hour number 4 of the show and hour number 20 of another week right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed up by 8th and Roast with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh making the show happen. My name is Will Bowling. It has been an excellent show this morning, and it is an excellent time to subscribe to the Ramon, Kayla, and Will podcast feed. If you missed our entire discussion when VolQuest's Brent Hubbs told us that Tennessee is all in on Innsworth product Chaz Lanier and how they are selling, playing for his home state school, helping his stock like Dalton connected. You can get notes on football and basketball on Tennessee's front from VolQuest's Brent Hubbs in hour number 1. UNC linebackers coach Tommy Thigpen was excellent in hour number 3. Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, terrific as well. That will be in hour 3 of the podcast, and both of those interviews are already up wherever you download podcasts. And coming up in 15 minutes, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler will give us the latest information on the Titans' pursuit of Tyler Boyd. Big stuff happening this morning on RKW. Tommy Thigpen, back in hour 3, was asked about Cedric Gray, Titans inside linebacker coming from UNC, wearing the green dot for the Titans this upcoming season. This was his old position coach, Tommy Thigpen, just an hour ago.
A lot of questions they wanted to ask was, can he make the calls? That was the main question I kept getting. I was like, can he have a green dot? I'm like, oh man, this guy would love to have the green dot. He would take pride in it because that's the quarterback on the defense. That's the guy that lines everybody up, and he's a general. And because as for us, so much Mike was out the box, and the Will was always remaining in the box. So he's when he was the guy in the box, he was making the calls. When the mic was in the box and the mic was calling it, nobody ever asked me how physical he is, how tough he is. I never got that question because all you got to do is watch the tape. He makes plays after play after play, and I bet you, I can tell you, he probably missed on a whole year. The last 3 years, he probably missed less than probably 15 tackles in 3 years, and he don't make no errors. And so when you watch him on tape, there's no mental errors. There's not many missed tackles, and so you got a complete linebacker that's never hurt. He's played in games, guys, where he's played 101 snaps in a game. Never, ever gets tired. Just in superior shape. So the question is, can he make those calls? Because in the league, it's a lot more two backs than it is in college football, where it's all one back. But that was the main thing that people kept asking.
Love it. I think Titans fans should be excited about their new linebacker.
And it was a great answer by Coach Thigpen. One, it was like open recruiting for him here in the Middle Tennessee area.
Right.
If you're a linebacker, if you got a kid who's a linebacker, he seems so thorough. I got to give it to him, man. But it was a good answer he gave as far as like people don't ask about his physicality, the play on the field. I mean, we see the tape. There's no question about what kind of athlete he is and how physical he is and his side to side. They want to know the insides outs of how good of an NFL prospect is he between the years. Can he call the green dot? How good is he as far as being a field general? And what kind of player would he be if he became the green dot guy? I think all those things are super interesting. And the other thing behind that, too, is we mentioned him being a 4th-round pick. Jim Nagy brought that up, too. It's almost like we look at later-round guys. It's like, oh, man, they're throwaways. They're not throwaways. Those guys are one of 256-ish players that are picked that are capable of being NFL players. And there's so many stars that come from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round or later that you say to yourself, man, they got great value out of a guy like him. And that's what you're wanting and expecting from a guy like Cedric Gray that will have a lot on his plate, And for the ones that don't know and only see UNC as just a basketball school, hey, they're just a blue blood. No, you got to have really good academics to go there. It's not calling him a smart guy, nothing like that, but you have to be able to stay eligible, play good ball, and be productive. As he's checked every single box as it pertains to being a student athlete and making himself a pro. Whatever they decide to put on his plate as far as the Titans and him being a rookie, potentially being the signal caller for the defense, I think could be a huge addition for this team to be able to check that box for years to come.
I heard yesterday Philadelphia Eagles, obviously Jim, Howie Roseman talking about just how you have to continue to develop these kids. Like they can be blue chippers. They can be guys that are going to, everybody thinks, okay, they're going to transform at the next level. That's fine and dandy. But once you get to a place, some of those guys don't do that. And I think in this specific thing with this GM now here, this head coach and the assistants that they have hired, the emphasis has been, hey, we're going to continue to develop these guys as good as we might be getting them, even when they're plug and play players. And so my point to this is when we asked Tommy Thigpen about Frank Bush, who will be now the position coach of Cedric Gray, he raved about this man. And this is nothing new. Mike Keith has said this. Coach Mack has said this. Just as about as great as Bill Callahan will be for the line, that will be Frank Bush for the linebackers. And I think that is such a great thing for Cedric Gray. As good as he is coming in and probably will earn a spot at a starting position there, I think to have that development coach to continue to make him better, I mean, that is gold right there.
And then we had Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, on in the last hour. He thought specifically there was one day 3 Titans pick who he thought was one of the best players in Mobile at this year's Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy told us he didn't understand why more people were not talking about Louisville corner Jarvis Brownlee.
Yeah, I think the Titans stole him, Kayla. I think to me, he had one of the best weeks of anyone, and you didn't hear it during Senior Bowl week. I don't know what people were watching. I was like going back and watching the tape myself. I'm like, why are more people talking about Brownlee? And I tried to do that myself, and I try to do that for our players. The guys that come down and have great weeks. I like to get that out there about the guys that really, I felt like, helped themselves. So, he's going to have that chip on his shoulder, man. This kid is South Florida through and through. A lot of swagger to him. I love his attitude, love his confidence. He was training close by here to Pensacola, and we went over there for like a little community service activation day the week before the Senior Bowl, and as soon as I met him, I'm like, okay, this guy's got something to him. Like he carries himself like a DB. I think you're going to like this guy. Doesn't back down. I think the reason he probably dropped a little bit, if he did drop, I mean, he was, going back to when we put the roster together, I think 5th round is where most teams had him. Now I'm surprised he didn't go higher based off the offseason he had. But it's just a size thing. He's not a real big guy, but what you love about him is he plays bigger than that. You put on the tape, you don't question size or strength or physicality, any of that stuff. This kid's just a baller. But if you just stare at the number, if you stare at the height weight numbers, you're going to be like, man, this guy's average, average size guy. But he certainly doesn't play like that. He's going to be he and Roger McCreary, just going back to guys that have been here in Mobile, and I know Roger well, being a Mobile kid, like those two guys are cut from the same cloth. They're going to get along really well in that defensive backfield. They play a lot of the same way.
I think the luxury the Titans have their guys, according to Jim Nagy, is they've got a guy cut from the McCreary cloth who can not only sit behind and learn from Roger McCreary, but doesn't have to be a dude right away the way Roger did as a rookie here in Tennessee.
Yeah, there's a little bit more grace given, right?
100%.
And of course, that was one of the bigger things we spoke about is refilling the cupboard, right? That this team need as far as just talent, depth, and just development too. That's one thing that Caleb brings up a second ago is just the overall understanding that. And it's no disrespect to the staffs before. I don't want to pile on the people who was here before, but that's one of those things that was brought up is, okay, how come so many guys are just, one and dones or 2 years and dones, or you don't have the extension of their careers here in the city? Now, you got David Long Jr. is going to Miami, is doing fine. T.R. Tart's another one's going to Miami now and has been to other teams. You can't say that's the case, but the more that you can keep in-house has been one of the biggest things that I've said. When you draft the guys or bring in the undrafted free agents that fit what you are trying to push out as an identifier of your program or of your franchise, that's when you become one of those mainstay teams. That's when you say, hey, that dude, he plays like I hate to even bring these fools up, but he plays like a Raven. They know what those dudes look like. Like drafting a Kyle Hamilton, and I know he's probably an obvious pick.
Raven.
But when nobody questioned
There's
it.
an identity.
Nobody questioned it. Why? Because he identifies as a Baltimore Raven. Right?
Braden Fisk, Ram.
Yeah.
He identifies as an LA Ram, right? And that's why I think the grades that the Titans have received, you know what I'm saying, is because, what are they as a franchise?
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying? And it ain't a diss. It's just that when you have a level of, I guess you say the longevity of picking and sticking, that's what you're looking for out of your franchise. And I hate I even said that type of crap about Baltimore.
You guys do it too.
He wasn't listening. Yeah.
Steelers?
I hate to do
Roman Wilson, Steeler.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Peyton Wilson, Steeler.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's those when New England was drafting those types of players. Or you say.
Well, they got Cole Strange from Chattanooga.
You said, that fits what?
Yeah, Bill Belichick.
Sure.
You don't question what Kansas City's picking now much, do you?
A white wide receiver that was mocked in the 5th round and the 2nd round, Patriot.
You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things we're looking. But that's what happens when you have coaches that can develop and you keep them in-house the way you need them to.
Coming up next, the latest on Tyler Boyd and the Titans' pursuit of the former Cincinnati Bengals slot wide receiver. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has been leading the way on this story since the beginning. He gives us the latest coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Wesley Mortgage, man. I'm here to tell you that the owner, Chuck McDowell, man, is a local Nashville native. You'll see him in all around the city, some of the same spots that you frequent, okay? But here's the thing. He cares about the community, and he is proud to serve it also. Chuck reinvests in the people and the places that make Nashville such a wonderful place, while other mortgage companies are downsizing. Chuck McDowell and the Wesley Mortgage team are rapidly expanding in Nashville, keeping people working in a career that they love, and they would love to have you join their team. Chuck and the leadership team at Wesley Mortgage, they have a support system in place to help you succeed in the mortgage business, ensuring your loans close on time, making sure you get paid, and giving you back the time to build your business and bring back the fun to the mortgage profession. With unique opportunities, hear me out, y'all, with the Tennessee Titans and the Music City Grand Prix, they make closing deals and building relationships fun again. So if you're in the mortgage industry and you're tired of the grind, you're tired of the pressure, and tired of just the micromanaging everything to make sure your clients get handled correctly, then you owe it to yourself to go to whywesley.com.
Lots to discuss as free agency continues. NFL draft in the rear view, and the Titans are in the mix for a big wide receiver. Welcome back in to Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed up by 8th and Roast. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Joined now by ESPN NFL reporter and insider Jeremy Fowler with lots to cover here in Nashville. Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Jeremy, let's start with the visit this week. Tyler Boyd does reportedly leave Nashville without a deal. What can you tell us about the Titans and their pursuit of the former, or I guess now former, probably, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver?
Yeah, so he was there yesterday. I checked in and I was told the meeting went really well. Obviously he's got a lot of familiarity with Brian Callahan and that system, and I don't think it graduated to where they were, hammering out a contract and getting to the finish line at all. But it sounds like that's still a possibility and it went really well. And, I thought the Titans were going to try to close it while he was there, but it sounds like it didn't happen. Doesn't mean, they can't circle back in the next 24 hours. And it does look like the sort of secondary receiver market is going to heat up a little bit because you have DJ Chark signing with the Chargers. They were talking to several receivers, and we're going to sign somebody. Odell Beckham, I still think he ends up in Miami. So you're going to see some dominoes start to fall a little bit.
Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, our guest. Jeremy, who else, in your opinion, is still in the mix for Tyler Boyd besides the Titans?
Well, he's had a lot of teams interested. It just depends on what the price point is and how much teams are willing to spend. It's funny, he's been linked to Pittsburgh a lot, probably because he's from Pittsburgh and they have a need at receiver. There really hasn't been anything that's heated up there, though, as far as any sort of contract talks or even phone calls of interest. So I'd be a little surprised at Pittsburgh. Kansas City is a team that I could still see adding a piece and could get involved with Tyler Boyd because of the need they have there suddenly with Rashee Rice is going to probably miss some time here due to a looming NFL suspension with his off-the-field issues. So, I could see the Chiefs getting involved there, and then there'll be others too. I mean, there's a lot of need for a good player like that.
Jeremy Fowler with us this morning. Jeremy, when it comes down to wide receivers on this market, if you were to say fits, what are they looking for? Like a guy like Tyler Boyd or Hunter Renfrow, whoever else is out there, what are they looking for?
The Titans?
The Titans? No, the wide receivers that are available.
Oh, what are the players looking for? I mean, I think they're looking for a good contract, That's usually what it comes down to. But fit's certainly an option. And Tennessee, no state tax, that's always attractive to a lot of these guys. I know that. That's a bigger factor than it's ever been. But guys want to go somewhere where they can put up the best numbers they can. I mean, they want the ball. They all want the ball. And you have a situation in Tennessee where I think you can get the ball. They obviously have, some good options there with Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, but they need a true slot. And Tyler would be a great fit for what Brian Callahan does and the familiarity they have there. So it does make a lot of sense in that regard. It gives them a good three-man rotation. But really with a lot of these guys, it's the money first, and then it's I can't speak for everybody, but money first, and then, ability to produce.
And when it comes to a guy like Tyler Boyd, his numbers, they have to match where he's going to. Do you think, as he's been a number 3 in Cincinnati, is he looking to be a 2 or a 1, or is it a situation where his role is really defined by the team and the usages he's going to be capable of with them?
I don't know if it's defined by what number receiver he is in the rotation. He's really not a number 1 receiver, but he's a good 2/3. I think everybody recognizes that. The only reason why he was a 3 in Cincinnati is because you had T. Higgins as probably the best 2 in the NFL, alongside Jamar Chase as the 1. So it's a byproduct of where you are. I think in the Titans' case, it'd be more of like a true 3-man rotation with Hopkins and with Ridley. So, he's a good 2/3, and that's the tricky part with a lot of these veterans that have accomplished a lot in the NFL. And then you get to free agency, you're kind of in that third wave now after the draft, and a lot of the big money has been spent, but you're accomplished enough and have made enough money where it's hard to take a smaller deal just to go somewhere for the right fit. You have to be offered enough money to quote, get out of bed, so to speak, So otherwise, a lot of these guys can, if they're going to play for the minimum, then they're just going to sit out. And in a lot of cases with players like, say, a Justin Simmons or somebody who's been an all-pro, it's going to take a pretty big number to probably get you to step out and sign somewhere. Plus, these guys don't really want to go to OTAs or minicamp in a lot of cases, so sometimes they strategically wait till June or July to sign somewhere.
ESPN senior NFL reporter Jeremy Fowler joining us, Arcade Dubs. Speaking of Justin Simmons, we've been talking a lot about, okay, when are they going to sign the safety here, because obviously the depth there, they need something, and there was hints that they were going to wait till free agency after the draft. Who do you feel like would be a fit here, Jeremy?
Yeah, there are a lot of good ones out there. Marcus May is a name I still have in my back pocket because I know they met with him early in the offseason. I do sense that there was a lot of mutual interest there. Nothing really came together, but that doesn't mean it can't now. So he'd be a good fit. And, a lot of these safeties wouldn't be overly costly at this stage. I mentioned Justin Simmons, maybe Quandre Diggs. Those are players that I could see waiting for the right number. But there's a lot of talent out there still at that position, and it kind of got watered down in March because he had so many players cut, so many good players available that there wasn't a lot of money for those players. But, if you're Justin Simmons, he's probably going to wait. That's one player that will have to get the right number. But Marcus May is one I could see shaken out just because of the interest already shown there, and I'm sure he has options though elsewhere.
Talking about options specifically, 12 players officially had their fifth-year options declined. Jeremy, what can you tell us? Any surprises there out of these guys? And I know one of them included Caleb Farley here in Tennessee, which probably wasn't a surprise to Titans fans.
Yeah, no huge surprises. Kwity Paye getting picked up by the Colts yesterday was a little bit of a surprise just because typically they pick it up on that last day, or if a player makes it to the last day, that May 2nd deadline without his option being picked up, then that's usually a bad sign. It means they're not going to do it and just haven't advertised it. But, Kwity Paye, $13 million a year now for 2025. But he had 8 sacks last year, so it did probably just enough to get it picked up. But, a lot of these are pretty clear cut. The guys that didn't get picked up, 3 of them were quarterbacks that got traded to other teams and lost their starting jobs. It's just writing's on the wall at that point when the money is $20+ million on these options for a quarterback who might not start for you. So, and, a lot of times players in the 20s, late first round, they're in the late first round for a reason. A lot of teams only have 16 to 20 first round grades on players in the draft coming into each year. And you see that. So I think like 11 of the first 14 picks got their options picked up, but then a lot of the guys in the 20s didn't, Farley included. So, and Caleb Farley was probably the most clear cut just because I think he started 2 games in 3 years. It's just, that's a tough sledding for a first round pick. And, the Titans need to start to hit on those. They had a kind of 3-year streak there where it wasn't very good.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler is our guest at JFowlerESPN, where you find him on Twitter. Jeremy, as you look at this Titans roster, still in need at pass rush, and the Titans only address edge rusher in the 7th round with Michigan's Jalen Harrell. Do you expect them to be active in looking for an edge rusher with some still available there in free agency?
Potentially. I hadn't heard that concretely. I'd heard more of a receiver, maybe an extra offensive line piece, although they addressed that, in the draft, or a safety. Edge rusher, you got a couple guys still out there. Bud Dupree was there a couple years ago. Maybe that makes sense to bring him back, although that was more of a past regime decision. A lot of times the new GM will want to get their own guys in there. But there's at least some familiarity there, and I could expect him to sign maybe in the next week or two. And, certainly it's an option for them.
Jeremy, a little bit off the beaten path, but certainly someone who Titans fans know very well, and quarterback Ryan Tannehill, who is still sitting out there in free agency. With a lot of quarterbacks finding homes, why do you think Tannehill is still available, and is there a fit out there for him that you think makes sense?
Well, potentially. I thought Denver once upon a time. It just didn't really shake out for him, because they have, he's in a situation where he's not going to start. He'd probably have to go sign somewhere for less money than he's made and be sort of a mentor backup role. And I don't know how much he wants to do that. I can't speak for him, but, there were some whispers that maybe he's going to sort of wait it out and isn't in a major rush to sign somewhere and go to a team. He's made a lot of money. He's played a lot of good football over the years, and, has the window passed? I don't know, but it appears that way, at least as like a surefire starter. So there's no real rush. Maybe he can even wait and see if somebody gets injured.
or if there's sort of a quick fix that a team needs in July and August, there's just not a lot of rush for him to have to sign right now.
Jeremy, one of the head scratches around the NFL draft this year was the Atlanta Falcons pick. But when you talk to people after the fact, it seemed like it was one of the more well-known seekers was they were going to take Michael Penix Jr. Was that some of the pre-draft conversation you'd had around him?
Well, it's funny, Ramon. I had a talk with somebody that I trust on Saturday before the draft, and they were like, watch out for Michael Penix and the Falcons. They like him a lot. Like, they love Penix. I'm like, okay. What do I do with that? Because I still am not totally convinced they take him at number 8. It was sort of like a have to see it to believe it situation. And so you heard some whispers. So I knew they liked him. I still didn't know whether they would take him at 8 or maybe try to trade back. But it's funny, the teams that were looking to potentially move up in the draft, either A, weren't willing to give up a lot to get to, say, number 8 overall, or they were waiting out. Like, the feeling was J.J. McCarthy was the 4th quarterback, or let's say Michael Penix is the 4th quarterback, depending on the team. Well, they didn't think those guys were going to warrant the trade movement necessary to have to move up. Like, if you're the Vikings and you're sitting at number 11, you didn't feel you had to get up to number 8 to take McCarthy. You could wait till number 10 to trade with the Jets. So there was just that song and dance where there wasn't enough capital to move back. Falcons love the guy. I think they had him, as, from what I heard, as high as their 2nd-rated quarterback in the entire draft. They wanted to solve the position long-term. The owner, Arthur Blank, was fully on board with the decision. In fact, he's had so much stability with Michael Vick and Matt Ryan over 2 decades at that position. He likes that. He was intrigued by that option. So take your swing. I know there's the question of, like, well, okay, why would you give Kirk Cousins $100 million only to turn around and draft a quarterback number 8 overall? I do think there's some logistical issues there. We have Raheem Morris coming in, first-year head coach in Atlanta, has to hire a staff. By the time you do all that, you're right pressed against free agency. Coaches a lot of times don't dig into, say, quarterback prospects in the draft really until mid-March, late March, until they fully get all the film work done and form their opinions, So I think by the time they had signed Cousins, I don't know that they were knee-deep on their full Penix evaluation at that point. And then, so they've reinforced how much they liked him. So it's just like, at that point, okay, well, what do you do? Do you just pass on him just because it looks bad on paper? I think they felt convicted to really do it. So I don't know. They feel like he's the best pure passer in the draft, and they wanted to get it done.
And speaking of pureness, let's talk about pure pass protector, Joe Alt and the Chargers. What does Coach Harbaugh do out in L.A. as it pertains to drafting a left tackle that everybody had number 1 on their ranking versus having Rashawn Slater over there also? Do you, day one, put Joe Alt at right tackle? How do you view what Harbaugh and his crew are thinking in Los Angeles?
I don't know if they made that full determination yet. The belief is that Slater could play both. He's that flexible and has that kind of experience where he could play left or right if he wanted to get creative. I think they just wanted to get the best player. It turns out that Alt, at least among the teams I talked to, was considered the best tackle. Some had J.C. Latham, depending on the evaluation, but they just wanted to get a premium commodity. It's clear that Jim Harbaugh values offensive line above all else, so let's get the best player there and work it out. My guess right now is that Slater would stay at left, but we'll see. I think it depends on kind of what mood Jim Harbaugh's in and how creative he wants to get.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler with us on RK Dub. Okay, we spoke about that 5th-year option and teams picking up that. You go back to that 2021 quarterback class. Man, you look at the first round, kind of looking like a bust, but you got Trevor Lawrence, who, no surprise, got his 5th-year option picked up. What more, I guess, do you need to see out of Trevor Lawrence as a Jags fan and just as somebody, who's running this team? I know he has been good, but I feel like there's another level we haven't yet seen.
For sure. Yeah, he really hasn't maximized his potential yet. That's really the feeling in Jacksonville, that he's come along fine. It's just last year was tough because he was pretty beat up the second half of the year. Probably needed to sit a game or two, but he was trying to tough it out and be insistent that he can be available. But he really didn't practice much the last couple months, so he was rusty and made some mistakes. Turned the ball over a lot. I mean, that's a concern. They want to wrap that up, but they feel like that nothing has changed in their evaluation of him based on what they knew they were getting when they drafted him. He was advertised as one of the best quarterback prospects of the last decade. I still don't think that has changed. There have been some ugly moments this last year, but the high-end ability is still there. If you can cut down on the turnovers. It's funny, like Jacksonville, they struggled on offense last year, but they lived in the red zone and just couldn't convert. There was always foot out of bounds or fingertip off the ball. Like, they easily could have been a 30-point game offense, honestly. They just missed a lot of those close call opportunities. If they can start to convert those, then they're back to building off the momentum of 2022.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has been our guest at JFowlerESPN, where you get the latest NFL news on Twitter. Jeremy, thanks for the time as always.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Sir.
There he is, Jeremy Fowler, with us this morning, giving us the latest, telling us the Titans are more in the wide receiver market versus edge rusher. Said he thought the Titans would get a deal over the line with Tyler Boyd while he was here. Possibilities still there, but the Chiefs will be a team in the mix. Sounds like.
Yeah, definitely.
Are they always? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so long as you got Patrick, that's the biggest
Right.
recruiter you got, other than trying to keep Tyreek Hill in the building. I mean, they don't really lose many guys, it seems, when it comes to free agency. D-Hop, I think, had an opportunity last year, but Jeremy also said this, too. It results to the dollars that got to be paid out also.
Sure. And Jeremy, he mentioned too, just, he still feels like there's a spot for him on this offense. These guys want to play. They want to get their numbers. He still feels like that's a realistic opportunity here, obviously, with the need at slot.
Interesting. The note on have heard more interest in wide receiver or an extra offensive lineman, despite the fact that they did address that in the draft. That may now go down the priority list, but not hearing edge rusher.
No.
For the Titans. How do we feel about that?
Makes me think that they're probably going to go get an edge rusher then. No, you know how
I don't know if I love it, to be honest with you.
But the way it goes is what, man? Everything that everybody's talking about is what they usually don't do.
Right.
And you could always use one extra guy and try to find that diamond in the rough.
Coming up, we are allegedly going to be joined by Buck Rising to talk about his Install Live event with Greg Cosell and Rand Carthon tonight. Do we think Buck is on time for this spot with us?
Make your bets now. No.
I ain't got much room to talk.
We do not care.
I missed the HL yesterday.
I'm going to say he is 60
you
seconds
did?
late.
Your mom.
60 seconds.
I'll give him a minute late.
60 seconds.
I'm not willing to bet.
Yeah.
Buck Rising joins us next.
Hey, are you looking to maybe do something good for your eyes? You haven't gotten checked out in a while. I know I had put mine off for 15 years, and that is no joke. Finally went into Wang Vision Institute, where they do an excellent job making sure you're getting taken care of whatever needs you need for your eyes now and in the future. They also set you up in terms of getting your skin on the right track. They're offering intense pulse light treatments, really super easy, non-invasive treatment. Takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and it's great for rejuvenating the skin. Maybe you've seen some sun damage over the years. You're seeing those dark spots appear. Also great for hyperpigmentation. And like I said, super simple to do. You can check out more about IPL treatments along with other services at wangvisioninstitute.com today. And going back to, if you do want to get your eyes checked out, maybe you're even thinking about LASIK surgery, they'll make sure you are the right candidate for that as well. You can go ahead and RSVP every Tuesday. They have a free consultation. It's at 6:45 p.m. They'll guide you in the right direction. So just visit wangvisioninstitute.com today.
That's Jeremy Fowler of ESPN on Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd, a free agent who was in Nashville yesterday. And if you missed that conversation in just about 10 minutes, you can find it wherever you download podcasts, Apple, Spotify, 1045thezone.com, wherever you download podcasts. You can hear the other teams that are in the mix as well for Tyler Boyd. What did we learn that we thought was most interesting from Jeremy Fowler just a minute ago?
He's not in a hurry. Is the fit that his style of ball complements is here in Nashville with the familiarity of Brian Callahan. Thought it was super unique in how Fowler put it together. And again, the money's going to matter in the end too.
He did also mention that don't count out those pesky Kansas City Chiefs because they're always kind of looking to boost that wide receiver room, especially as of late. Rashee Rice, obviously the incident with him kind of added that they could be looking for a guy. And then I thought it was interesting too on the safety question, just because we know the Titans are on the look for maybe somebody at that position. Marcus May is one of the names he brought up there.
Interesting. One of the best safeties that's played for the Titans in the last 5 years was signed in training camp in Kenny Vaccaro. Titans brought in Kenny Vaccaro because Jonathan Cyprien had a season-ending injury in training camp and in preseason. Signing. So still plenty of value left at the safety position this year, especially considering some of the veterans who are out there. I'm starting to believe it's just a matter of time until Marcus May ends up here.
Yeah.
With his old assistant coach in a defense that he will know and in a place that makes sense for him. We'll see.
Yeah.
A little bit of NFL news this morning. The Buffalo Bills just signed former Pittsburgh Steeler wide receiver Chase Claypool.
Did they?
Good luck with that.
All of Buffalo's problems solved.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Dude has so much potential.
He could make a decoy route look great.
I'm talking about phenomenal, won't he?
What happened, man? Because I was such a big fan of him his rookie year. I think anybody that plays fantasy football lost to him at some point, catching a ridiculous touchdown. Where was the major fall off there, Ramon?
I wasn't in the locker room, but to the people I've had conversations with in and around the locker room, it's just you put the cart before the horse. In the terms of just professionalism, in the terms of just playmaking, it became more of let me be a bigger star than let me be a bigger football player. It's and that when you have that type of stuff happening, you ruin your career. You do. It's simply that simple for a guy like him.
I'm going to say something really disrespectful, and if you don't want to respond to this, you don't have to. But why is it that the Steelers have like the Mount Rushmore of weird, diva, corny wide receivers?
Why?
Between Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, and George Pickens. George Pickens, maybe not as much corny. He's kind of a wide receiver diva, but I don't think it's y'all's fault. Like, I'm not trying to put you in a difficult situation here to criticize Mike T or anything, but like, y'all maybe have just had some bad luck with some of the personalities you've had in the wide receiver.
I'll say this. As it pertains to AB, corny, I wouldn't think so. I think his antics are a different conversation, but as far as like stardom, the thing about Pittsburgh is the same thing about Nashville. It was a mid-market city that when it breeds superstars, that team is so rabid, the fans are so rabid on being a part of that show that those guys take it and run with it. Juju's the same conversation. He became a big star really fast, and the fan base got behind him, and when you are a mid-market team that doesn't have the exposure of, Nashville is getting to that point where exposure can be crazy. You're not Miami, Atlanta, LA, New York. Then you become your own entity of entertainment. That's the only thing I can see from it is I'm the biggest show here and you guys gonna all watch it with me. That's how I've always looked at it. Le'Veon, the same situation, right?
Yeah.
Like after the fact.
It's interesting.
Think about it for a second.
It's true.
Green Bay would probably be the same way. If those big stars like that, I think it's just that city is so small for an NFL city that it's not much that you can pull from it.
But on the opposite end, then they have the guys that are just, you always go to them. Those are the guys that made Pittsburgh famous because they're great, right? Yeah. And they're everything culture-wise to them, they tied to the organization is great.
Yeah.
The bus, Palomalu.
It is. And there's a bunch of that too, like where the greats are just that great. But when you attach yourself to a really good brand in the football world, the league does, and I will say is biased and does run with it.
Sure.
It's interesting.
Well, if your bet was 7 minutes late on when Buck Rising was going to be here to pub his event on our show, then you are a winner.
We bought tickets for.
We just knew he was going to be
We
late.
got tickets for.
We did. I hope we see a
I
whole
bought a
lot of you out
ticket.
there.
I did too.
I spent my hard-earned U.S. American currency on his event tonight.
Now-
And he
It will-
won't even do us the pleasure of showing up.
Now I gotta
Profiting
see
the
it.
Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So really great cause tonight.
Crazy.
And you can still donate to his cause because he's got the link somewhere on his Twitter X page.
I'm not going
Correct.
anywhere.
If you're going to the event tonight and you would like to ask Titans general manager Rand Carthon a question, find that link from Buck. I'm sure he will share it incessantly during his show. Find that link. The top donators skip to the front of the line at this event. So if you want to talk to Rand, you've got to ask him a question. Rand, how do you get that head looking so slick every day?
Yeah.
You got to donate.
What
Now
kind of
I'm
beard
motivated.
trimmer do you use, Rand? Please
Right.
let me know.
Now I'm motivated to go ahead and donate and ask a question.
My mom told
please
me.
do.
My
It
mom
would be a
told me
highlight.
if you go to this event tonight, you have to let him know. I know he's happily married, but if he ever has a slot open, you could be Bert's new
What
daddy.
is it with her and GMs?
I don't
First
know.
Jerry Jones, now she wants a piece of Rand Carthon.
She's got a
what
thing
is
for
going
power.
on?
She loves power.
Love
And I love my mama. I'm trying to move on up like
There's
George
something
Jefferson.
wrong
I feel
with
you, dog. I don't even want to comment on putting your mom out there in them streets like that, man. I don't even want to do it. Or I could go on stage tonight and I'd talk like Rand Carthon.
You could.
Because, I mean, we have
It's
a
pretty
process.
good.
and
You
how
should-
Oh, here we go.
You
Look
should
at
become the
diva.
highest bidder.
Speaking of diva wide receivers,
and
one just
and
walked
ask
in.
about that. We just talked about how you can donate tonight.
No, wrong seat. Wrong seat. Come over here beside
Bert said
Ramon.
wrong seat.
Come over here beside Ramon.
He said, come over
Your
here.
mic is not on.
Your mic's not
It's on, but it's not gonna
He's
go
gonna
over
make
the
you
air.
work
Look at
for
Buck,
it.
he hates
That's
Here
all.
it comes.
He's going to make you work for it.
There he is.
Buck Rising.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Bubba Squat.
master of ceremonies tonight for the
Go.
Install Live with Greg
Will I be
Cosell
on
and Rand
time?
Carthon.
Over
Hey,
unders?
what's going on? How are you?
Hold up.
Lovely of you all to have me. Sorry for being late. But I wanted to give you guys the
expected
same experience that everybody else that works with me
Oh, how kind of you.
for 3 hours
Love
gets.
that.
Yeah, you guys excited? I'm excited.
Yeah.
We are
I'm
excited.
Really excited. I didn't get to go last year. I was out of town, so looking forward to it this year.
More excited for the event or the after party?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, both. I'll say nicely both.
Yes.
Look, he's like, I'm more excited for the after party, baby.
Hell yeah, are you kidding me? I'm so tired. This is going to be electric. It's going to be a great event, and Rand and Greg are fired up. And there's, personnel questions to be asked given the week's news cycle.
Yeah.
And I know you guys just had Jeremy Fowler on. So looking forward to seeing everybody out there. And if you want to get to the front of the line to ask the GM and Greg Cosell questions about your football team, you can donate to the LLS link that I will tweet out.
Yes.
What are you most excited for tonight?
Well,